Blank check with Griffin and David. Blank check with Griffin and David. Don't know what to say or to expect. All you need to know is that the name of the show is Blank Check.
Two little mice fell in the bucket of cream. First mouse quickly gave up and drowned. The second mouse wouldn't quit. He struggled so hard that eventually he churned that cream into butter and crawled out. Gentlemen, as of this moment, I am that second podcast.
Oh, no.
That was, okay, so I will say that was the
That
single
was like
worst
a
impression
ski
I've ever
jumper,
done.
and it's going fine, and then you just, like, die
I
on
feel
landing.
I feel like I was throwing a lot of Woody Allen in there.
Here and there.
I feel like I was doing, like,
it doesn't matter. Walking's always funny,
Yeah.
good or bad.
yeah,
Podcast.
yeah. Pow.
Pow.
I just shit my pants. I'm Woody Allen, director of Manhattan.
I didn't think about that. It's a hop and a skip from Woody Allen.
It, like, sped up. It's like,
Walken.
this is,
Right,
that's,
right.
you know.
Yeah, but it's
right,
different.
But it's that
it's
kind of-
different.
yeah.
Hey, let's get Kevin Pollak in here, right?
Yeah, right?
Let's make this a Kevin Pollak show crossover.
Yep.
Is that what it's called? I don't know.
Sure.
Yeah,
I am Kevin Pollak Chat Show.
yeah there you go.
I am America's second favorite diminutive impressionist, Griffin Newman.
And I'm Sam Levine. No, I'm David Sims.
The Sam Levine of our hearts and minds.
You think I guess you'd be the Pollak and I'd be the Levine? I don't know.
No, I'm saying I'd say you're the Sam Levine of the New York film critic community.
I agree. Totally.
Okay.
100%.
Griffin Newman, David Sims. This is a podcast called Blank Check with Griffin and David.
Yep.
We are hashtag the two friends.
Yep.
That's us, two friends hosting this show. And the show is called Blank Check, and this is what it's about. Filmography.
Sure.
Directors who have massive success early on and are given a series of blank checks to make whatever crazy projects they want. Sometimes those checks clear, and sometimes those checks bounce a baby.
What? The last word is what you struggle with.
It's getting really
You
bad.
don't know what to do on the last word. You're like, do I go in on this or do I? Yeah. Anyway.
Wow.
Wow. I can't.
bad.
I've never really bothered with a
Yeah.
walking impression because it feels like, I don't know, it's like climbing Everest. Like, it's hard. A lot of people
Yes.
have done it. And once you do it, it's sort of like, well,
Here's a thing that
people have
just
been here before.
right. Here's the thing that just hit me. I don't think I've done it in 5 years.
Sure.
And I feel like 5 years ago, I had a workman-like walk-in.
Sure. Right. You're saying like you put in your time and you carved out an okay
It wasn't anything
walk.
great, but it was functional.
Mhm.
And it turns out that doing a Christopher Walken impression is not like riding a bicycle. It doesn't come back to you quickly.
Even after you watch old Chrissy W.
Yeah, I wasn't studying. You know what I'm saying? I was just
no, I
buying
get you.
in.
I get you.
We're covering what I would refer to as a Christopher Walken vehicle today, right? This is sort of a one-hander.
It was kind of a secret Chris Walken vehicle.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, right?
It ended up
actually
being-
revived his career.
Yes,
Yeah.
100%.
But yeah, secret Chris Walken vehicle. Say it in his voice.
This is the titular episode of our miniseries, a miniseries about
That's right.
Steven Spielberg, the DreamWorks years,
Mhm.
his run of films financed by a movie studio that he founded, the biggest blank check in history.
Blank check.
He's got the Oscars. He's got nothing to prove anymore.
Yeah.
And now he's just making whatever the fuck he wants.
True.
And this is the titular movie. It's
Uh-huh.
called Catch Me If You Can.
Okay. Was he stabbed when he said that? Was he
I'm
dying?
struggling. I'm trying to find a
Sounded
handle
like
here.
blood was like leaking out of his body.
I'm reaching on the side of the ship for any kind of tactile thing to hold on to and pull me back up to land.
Yeah.
Maybe it's more. No, whisper isn't the
Catch
key.
me if you can.
Catch
This
me if you
is
can.
Pod Me if you
cast.
Yes. And that's where we are today as a society.
The year is Deuce, 00 Deuce.
The year of this film. Yes, 15 years ago.
Yes.
Because it's now 2017
Yes.
when we're recording this.
I'm trying to take the viewer back to a simpler time, though.
2002. Ooh, it was kind of a complicated time.
The year is Deuce, 00 Deuce.
Ooh.
America still had 9/11 fever. People couldn't stop talking about that horrible tragedy.
Oh, dear.
But don't get too comfortable because more tragedies are coming.
Sure.
Talk about Deuce. We got 2 wars going on, right?
Okay.
And Spielberg is going to enter a period of films that are all very, very affected and haunted.
I would say he's already entered it with Minority Report. But this is not that. But I mean, I know what you're saying, that the next 2 or 3 films he's going to make are very obviously
the question with Minority Report is
affected by the times they're in, right?
The question with Minority Report is always how...
Oh, no, he does make The Terminal in between there, though. Right, yeah. Well.
The question of Minority Report is how
I know, we talked about
but
it.
Whatever.
Because it's one of those things where it ends up being very relevant, even if it was maybe not made with these current issues in mind. But of course it was, you know.
This was viewed at the time as a light Spielberg. It's a romp. It's a frolic.
It was a romp. It was a caper.
Sure.
Caper movie, and released Christmas Day, so it had like a holiday movie vibe. It's sort of vaguely a Christmas movie.
I'd say pretty directly a Christmas movie.
Yeah, well,
they didn't sell it that way in the advertising because I think it's like the saddest Christmas movie ever made.
It's a pretty sad Christmas movie.
Its take on Christmas is pretty dire.
It's a wonderful movie. Number one, it's a wonderful movie.
Agreed.
Number two, it's I agree with you, a wonderfully melancholy movie that sort of like dresses everything up sort of sweetly, but like, you know, you only have to think about it for a second to be like, oh, this is a little grim.
Number 3, it's
like
a wonderful
even before
life.
he starts doing all this shit. Number 3, It's a Wonderful Life.
Yes.
Thank you.
I think the whole movie's pretty haunted. But
not in like a severe way, you know, in a nice way, in a good way.
I got some hot takes I'm gonna throw out. We'll build up to them.
You and your hot takes.
I think this is a great fucking movie, and a movie I hadn't seen since its release.
I have weirdly seen this movie like half a dozen times. I feel like it's on TV a lot or something. I don't know. Yeah. I don't even know why, but I've just seen it a lot. I like immediately, like with Joanna, I was just like, ooh, like this shot coming up is really good. Like I just sort of like knew a lot of the visual language of the movie well. I don't know.
I'm not trying to brag, but
lovely movie.
I haven't had cable in like 6 years, so I rarely like have that kind of like,
you don't
it's on
have
TV,
it's
watch
on cable.
It's always I was an early cord cutter, and so it's always deliberate rewatches for me. And for whatever reason, it was never a movie I was driven to rewatch, and was very affected by the second viewing. I mean, the movie grew greatly in my eyes, and I feel like it's a movie I'm now going to watch many years to come, over and over again. Because I think it's we'll get to larger thoughts, but I think it's a very strong movie that was weirdly like very well liked.
It was well liked. It was a financial success.
Did incredibly well.
Totally.
And I feel is still incredibly underrated.
It is somewhat underrated, partly because it came in this crush of Spielberg movies.
Yes.
Partly because it was this weird, like, you know, Leo had been gone.
Yes.
Basically. I mean, he made The Beach, right? Is there anything else?
Beach is 2000?
Beach is 2000. That's it. I mean, Man in the Iron Mask and Celebrity, but like those are pre-Titanic that came out post-Titanic.
But let's just, you know, I mean, like, DiCaprio, sitcom star, child actor,
sure.
Right?
Oscar nomination.
Okay, then Breakout, right, Gilbert Grape, who the fuck is this guy? Then the sort of tortured young man roles.
Basketball Diaries, Romeo and Juliet,
and the, whatchamacallit?
Marvin's Room.
Boy's Life.
This Boy's Life. Yeah.
Right. And then Romeo and Juliet, like, makes him a bit of a heartthrob. Titanic is, like, the biggest pop any movie star's experienced in the last 25 years. Yeah. Right? Okay, so now he's too big. He's bigger than any actor has been.
Right, so he freaks out, you know, takes it easy.
Retreats. Man in the Iron Mask was already in the can.
Forget that.
That's released
Celebrity's a cameo.
Right. And was also already in the can. Doesn't make a movie. He's got all this power.
He makes The Beach.
Right.
Right.
But I'm saying it takes a couple years. He's off the screens. Everyone, where the fuck is Leo?
Right.
Goes to Istanbul, picks up this weird novel, makes it. Everyone's like, looks weird, but Leo mania, right? There's no way this thing doesn't work. And guess what? Big old belly flop.
Total bomb, you know, financially and critically.
Right.
Some people speak up for that movie. I've always found it to be a troublesome movie.
Never seen it. I know Boyle kind of disowns it, right? Not disowns it, but
he
it's
disown
like,
it. He just
work.
had a hard time making it, and he felt really bad that it ruined his relationship with Ewan McGregor, who was kind of his, you know, his guy.
Right,
you know.
Which was not
Ewan was supposed to be the
right
star.
Now. Right.
But anyway, Danny Boyle is such an interesting director.
We'll cover him at some point. I mean, we've had people even recently prodding us about our Sunshine take. Because you and I are two of America's preeminent Sunshine defenders. Sunshine's a masterpiece.
Anyway, but then it's like, okay, Leo, like Beach was bad, like what Pussy Posse, you know.
Well, and I feel like the big thing was at this point.
The big thing was, is Leo never going to be in a good movie ever? Like, was Titanic it? Was this some sort of weird fanatical thing? And like maybe it was all overblown, right? Like maybe Leo's a bad actor.
Well, and also the thing of like, what the fuck happened to him? Like, did he freak out? You know?
I think he did. I mean,
but some people don't come back from that. Like,
Right, absolutely.
there are people who are like big early movie stars, right? Like Elliot Gould, who I always think is a very interesting case example, was like right place, right time.
Jesus,
Not
we're talking about Elliot
not
Gould.
the same as DiCaprio, right? But
Yeah,
like
no.
was the right guy for the right time and came to represent a certain sensibility in the 70s and like blew up really big.
Yeah.
And very publicly like kind of got overwhelmed by everything and stepped away and was like off screens for a long time. And when he came back, it was like now he's sort of a character actor.
Yeah, now he's like a middle-aged guy.
Right, like the leading man thing, he had his moment and he walked away from
He
it.
made some good movies.
Oh, he's made some great movies. He's one of my favorite actors of all time.
Yeah.
But it was like, is DiCaprio going to actively avoid this, right?
So to finish my sentence,
yes.
it came out. Actually, I should look it up.
Like a month after,
Not
or no,
even
like
a month.
week after.
It came out 5 days after Gangs of New York came out.
Because I believe they were supposed to both come out the same day.
Sure.
And there was a thing where one of them was like, I'll move 5 days
Right.
over. I don't remember which one. I think
it was Gangs.
I think Gangs moved up
Catch Me
5
If You
days
Can was always
early
going to be a Christmas movie.
to be
yeah.
like, okay, let's not cannibalize each other.
So Gangs had come out, and everyone was just jerking their dicks about Gangs because it was like, oh, it's not good, or oh, it's not,
Right.
the hype had been because Gangs had been supposed to come out a year earlier
Yes.
and had been held over for cuts and fights with Weinstein, and it was such a complicated, tortured process. So everyone's all worked up about Gangs. Catch Me If You Can comes out, everyone's like, Leo's pretty good at this. Anyway, it felt like everyone was like, anyway, let's get back to fighting about Gangs in New York, right?
And there are a couple really interesting factors to that, right?
Yeah.
One is this movie did almost twice the box office of Gangs of New York.
Oh, this movie was a huge hit. Obviously, it was like a PG-13
Right.
with Tom Hanks and Steven Spielberg. So, it was
Right.
It was better positioned. But yeah,
like,
Gangs
cost
was
less
seen
than
as
Gangs
a
of New York.
relative flop. Yeah,
Right.
it cost twice as
Right.
It cost $50 million to
Right.
Gangs
It
of New
cost
York's
half
100.
as much as Gangs of New York and made twice as much.
Hey, guys.
Oh, yes, Producer Ben, a.k.a. the Ben Deucer, a.k.a. Producer Ben, a.k.a. the Poet Laureate, a.k.a. the Meat Lover, a.k.a. the Fart Detective, a.k.a. the Tiebreaker, a.k.a. our finest film critic, a.k.a. Birthday Benny, a.k.a. Dirtbike Benny, a.k.a. White Hot Benny, a.k.a. Soaking Wet Benny,
Oh, my God. What?
Griffin.
a.k.a. the Fuckmaster, a.k.a.
What
the
is it,
Peeper.
Ben?
So,
Hello, Fennel, by the way.
oh, yeah. Always wish me
Graduated
hello,
certain-
Fennel.
Graduate to
guys.
certain titles over the course of different miniseries, such as Kylo Ben, Producer Ben Kenobi, Ben Say, Ben Night
Get
Shyamalan,
along.
Say Benny Thing, and Ailey Benz,
In the
with a dollar sign at the end. Yes, Ben?
Fun fact about Gangs of New York, Dan Lewis, he was training to be a shoemaker.
You burst in here to give us an IMDb fact?
Also, you call him...
Fucking asshole.
That's off the top of the dome.
You call him Dan Lewis?
Nobody calls him Dan
Who
Lewis.
is he, your fucking
His name-
accountant? You call him Dan Lewis?
His name is Day Lewis. His
Yeah.
last name.
His last name's Day
no.
Lewis.
Listen, that's a middle name. You don't have to say
That's
that.
not a middle
It's
name.
not, it's a hyphenated
It's a hyphenated.
Oh, it's hyphened?
Would you
Well,
call her Jules Dreyfus?
Sure. Why
I
not?
call her Julie Dreyfus.
Jewy Louie.
We call her Jimmy Jones? Jimmy Jones as the voice of Darth Vader?
I just called her Jewy Louie. Jesus Christ.
Do you want me to cut that out?
No, keep it in, but
Double
yeah, double it. Sure. Oh, but layer it over so it's like
Yes.
you're booming.
Yeah.
But to answer your question, David,
Yeah.
I did.
Look that up on IMDb, you piece of shit.
No, I knew
Yes,
that. I
he
read
was
it in
training to
Rolling
be a
Stone.
cobbler. Yeah.
He was trained to be a cobbler in Italy.
I just can't get over Dan Lewis.
Dan Lewis. Dan Lewis. He's brother of Dan Brown. What am I talking about?
Crazy fact about Dan Lewis, never made Lloyd Night.
Verona Lloyd.
It's for
All right.
two people. Okay.
Two people like that joke.
Ben is one of them.
Yep. And one of our listeners. I forget which one.
Yeah.
Catch
If Can.
It costs half as much, makes twice as much,
Big
right?
hit. But I think everyone was just like, yeah, sure, whatever. I don't know.
It's fun.
Like, it was like, yeah, it's fun.
It was viewed as like a populist thing, right?
The only thing anyone fucking said about this movie was the score is good, which it is.
It got 2 nominations only?
Best score and best supporting actor.
Right,
for
those were the
Christopher
two
Walken.
things.
And Walken was not even seen as like a guarantee. He snuck in. He didn't get a Globe nom. Like, it was sort of
Won
like
the SAG.
yeah, he won the SAG.
So then people were like, is he going to win? Is this a career
he
capper?
was never going to win,
No, Chris Cooper had that year
Yeah.
locked up.
which is funny now that you think about it because it's such a wonderful performance, but it doesn't like scream Oscar.
No, it doesn't. And he certainly wasn't a super recognizable actor at that point. He'd kind of been a journeyman.
I mean, he'd been around.
He'd been around, but he was such a sort of chameleon
I know.
that it wasn't like
No.
we've been waiting to give him an Oscar.
it was just one of those things where everyone had just decided. It's so funny the way the Oscars work, where it's like everyone in these, and you go to these like industry parties, and it's like everyone's just like, oh well, Chris is going to win that, and it's like, oh, I guess we all just made that decision, like unconsciously.
I just remember seeing that movie and being like, this is totally my kind of performance. And then when he won the Oscar, I was like, I'm surprised they agree with me because I usually like weird performances.
The reason he won is that Walken already had an Oscar. If Walken didn't already have an Oscar, then I think there would have been like, oh my God,
this would have
like
been his
Screen
Untouchables.
Legends. Yeah, like, right. But Walken won an Oscar for The Deer Hunter a zillion years ago. Yeah. So, the only other, Paul Newman, who is incredible in Road to Perdition, but he had an Oscar.
John C. Reilly was that year?
John C. Reilly, which was a sort of pat on the head, right?
Well, that was his most supporting actor year, where he was in 3 of the 5 Best Picture nominees.
And then Ed Harris, who in The Hours, like would have been his year to win, but The Hours, say what you will about The Hours, he's not very good in it. Like, it's a very over the top, stupid performance.
I remember being good in it, but I also haven't seen it since it came out.
Performance.
I remember jumping out the window. Spoiler alert for The Hours.
That's mostly what he does.
Ed Harris jumps out a window.
Always throwing parties to cover the silence.
I remember the whole movie, him just sitting in that little nook by the window.
That's what he does.
Right?
Yeah, and look, I know people out there love The Hours, and I have
by people we mean Joe Reed.
Yeah.
And
other fans of the show, I'm sure, like The Hours, and I have complicated feelings about The Hours, but I think that unequivocally, Ed Harris, who is one of my favorite actors, is god-awful in the Stephen Daldry's film, The Hours.
You would have given him the Oscar for Truman, right?
I would have given him the Oscar for Apollo 13, my friend.
Right. Well,
Maybe for Truman. He's great in Truman.
I feel like
I'd
have
to
heard you make the Truman argument, but Apollo 13.
Yeah,
he's so good in Truman. Anyhow.
We're done.
Yeah, we're done. What's interesting is that, the Gangs of New York was such a hyped up thing. Here's how hyped up Gangs of New York was, okay?
Well, again, to be clear, it was literally supposed to come out the December before and was held over. So it was a year of people being like, gangs. And Scorsese hadn't won his Oscar yet, so everyone was like, will this be the one,
Because he had done a lot of weird movies leading up to that.
He'd done his weird, like, Kundun, Bringing Out the Dead. Is there another one in there?
There's another late 90s Scorsese I'm forgetting. Kundun, Bring Out the Dead. Cape Fear was like 92, 94, right?
It's not that.
But that's also like a departure. That's like not going to be an Oscar Scorsese movie.
Well, no, because there's
Age
also
of
the
Innocence,
Age of Innocence, but there's Casino in there.
Casino in there, yeah.
No, it's Kundun.
Bring Out the Dead's 99.
Yeah, Kundun, Bring Out the Dead, Gangs of New York. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Before they did Casino.
Yeah. The thing is that he, I believe, right after Taxi Driver, took out an ad in Variety announcing that his next film was going to be Gangs of New York.
He'd always wanted to make this movie based on this great book that you should all read.
So in addition to the film being pushed back a year from its release, it was like he'd been calling the shot since like fucking 1975.
Yeah, it was kind of like Silence, where it was everyone knew it was a passion of his.
But it was also like Napoleon, like Kubrick's Napoleon, where it was like, is he ever going to do it?
And he made it on. Look, one day Gangs of New York is a better movie than Catch Me If You Can, and is one of the greatest movies of the 2000s.
Disagree with that.
Yeah, no, you're totally wrong. Great movie, one of Scorsese's best movies. Totally underrated. Love that movie, but it was kind of like it needed a while. It needed a while to really get its sillies out.
I like certain things about that movie and have problems with it.
It's a fantastic movie.
Another big thing about that movie is that Ben's close personal friend Dan Lewis had retired from acting to make his shoes.
What was he doing in Italy?
Oh, he was a cobbler.
Fucking bullshit.
But that was his first movie
much
in
hype
3
ever
years.
since The Boxer. Now 5 years.
And people weren't sure if he was ever going to come back.
He's good.
So it was like that. It's like, oh, the guy's returned. This is Leo's big Titanic follow-up. He's the new guy.
So that movie comes out. Leo's not terrific in Gangs.
I agree. I think that's a problem with that movie.
Yeah,
I don't think it derails the movie, but he's okay.
Yeah.
He hadn't.
It's a performance where he's not playing an interesting character, and he's totally overshadowed by everyone else.
And it feels a little bit like a school
and
play
the
performance.
Sets.
It feels like a kid playing dress up. A little.
It feels like probably what it was, which was him learning to be a grown-up actor.
And trying really hard to prove that he was a grown-up actor.
His performance in Catch Me If You Can, on the other hand, is wonderful, but it is more, he's playing a teenager, so it's more of a boyish Leo.
Hot take from this rewatch, I think arguably his best performance ever.
Oh, no, he lost me. And we know his best performance. We said it. We said the lines on the Titanic episode. We said it together.
We said the line.
We said the line, the key line.
Well, it's
from
your
his best
favorite
performance.
1, 2, 3.
We are duly appointed federal marshals.
I know you think that's his best.
That's his best.
I think his best performance is this.
Yeah. What do you think it was before you saw Catch Me If You Can last night?
Before that, I probably would say Wolf of Wall Street, which probably speaks to what I like out of DeCaps.
He's so good in that.
I like when he's not putting a clamp on the charisma.
Me too.
Feels like his head is getting really big.
So big.
Right?
He's got
Isn't
a big
it
head.
big?
He's got a big head.
I went down a rabbit hole last night.
He's an odd-looking man. Like even
for a guy
even
who's that good looking, he's really weird looking.
Odd-looking.
He's weirdly good looking.
Yeah, he is. He's a funny-looking guy.
I went down a rabbit hole last night of watching DiCaprio trailers after Catch Me If You Can, and it is interesting how his head seems to grow larger and larger.
Got a big head.
But all great movie stars do.
I guess so. Is he tall? I've never seen him in person.
I think fairly.
Uh-huh.
You know what I've heard? Amazing skin. People have been on planes with him. Like I know a couple people have like seen him in person, and they all just go like, skin was pretty incredible.
He's on some vegan diet, isn't he? He's 6 feet tall.
Yeah.
6 feet tall.
Look at that.
Tall guy.
Yeah. And the crazy thing is 3
tall.
feet of that is head.
Mm. Did you like my reaction to that?
To the listener at home, David's face was nonplussed.
But I mean, it is crazy for Leo. Like after this, he doesn't make a movie for 2 years, and it's The Aviator,
right,
with Scorsese.
Right.
He doesn't make a movie for 2 more years, and it's The Departed with
right.
Scorsese, and then he does Blood Diamond that same year.
He's kind of
does,
entering
like,
a Warren
Body
Beatty
of
phase.
Lies. Like after that, he finally is like, okay, let me.
But the Warren Beatty phase is, I'll take years off between movies. I don't care. My star power is large enough that I don't feel the need to be out there every year, right? And it's very strategic moves working with big directors. Like,
sure.
He only works with big directors from this point out, right?
Big directors.
Big directors. Like
yeah, no, he works
Woody
with
Allen and Christopher Walken and Arnold Schwarzenegger.
The biggest directors.
Yeah.
Ridley Scott.
Yes.
Christopher Nolan.
Correct.
Ed Zwick. You were ready.
We
apart from Zwicky Pants, Zwick will talk any movie star into anything.
That's the crazy thing. All these movie stars whiff with Zwick.
They think Zwick's like, have I got the role for you?
Yeah.
How do you feel about pharmaceutical sales reps who fuck people?
Young, dumb, and full of cum. That's the Zwick pitch. It's weird that all these movie stars always get fucking bamboozled by Zwick.
They do.
They get roped in by the Zwick.
Have you ever seen him? He's a charming guy. He's nice.
Yeah.
30-something.
Yeah, 30-something. I was going to say the same thing.
Yeah.
30-something, though.
But yeah, Clint Eastwood, Quentin Tarantino, Baz Luhrmann, like he works with very, very big established directors.
And Catch Me If You Can was, based on true story. Fisher Stevens. What was the Fisher Stevens?
Made like a documentary about, flooding
Eco,
or whatever.
Yeah.
That Leo narrates.
But he's working with canonical American directors, save for Zwick, right? The people that one might dub like the modern masters, the preeminent American filmmaker.
I would dub Zwick a modern master.
Never go back though.
He hasn't worked with Spielberg again, however, but he did. He got his Spielberg collab.
He got the Spielberg on his bingo card.
It's
right?
funny that they've never worked together again. Have they ever? Has that ever been floated?
Leo that's a good question.
Leo Steven Stilivo. Oh boy,
that's a good question. I'm surprised he hasn't done a Coen Brothers movie either yet. It feels like they're a major missing one on his.
That's true,
board.
and actually, I could see them getting a lot out of him.
Mm-hmm.
He hasn't been funny since this
Wolf of Wall
movie.
Street.
Oh no, right? He's funny.
Those
Wolf
are the
of
two
Wall
where he's funny.
And he's so funny in that the Quaaludes scene. He's kind of funny in Django Unchained. Like that is a heightened performance. I mean, I'm not laughing.
He's
exactly.
villain funny.
Exactly.
Where it's like uncomfortable funny.
It's a cartoonish performance.
Right.
And I mean, Revenant was obviously laugh a minute.
Yeah, well, it's a Jackass movie.
Kind of it.
When is Revenant 2.5 going to come out?
Dirty Grandpa Revenant.
Yeah, Dirty Revenant.
This time it's even colder.
Yeah. They could have called that movie Dirty Trapper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Dirty Trapper. He's dirty. Everyone in that movie's dirty.
It's a dirty, dumb movie. It's a dumb, beautifully shot Jackass film.
Yeah.
And I'll never stop saying this.
Sure.
But my point is, DreamWorks, early days.
That's your point is DreamWorks?
My point is DreamWorks. Thank you very much, everybody. And as always, DreamWorks.
Are we done with the miniseries,
Yes.
I guess? Okay,
We're done.
Great.
Put a bow on it, baby. David, you told me recently that you're running into problems
saying baby to people.
You're saying it too much.
Well, when Joanna Robinson, who was last week's episode, when she was, did I tell you this?
You did tell me.
Okay, when she was here and she'd arrived at the UCB, and I guess I came into our recording studio, and she was outside, and I've met Joanna like twice, basically, because like we live on opposite coasts, like we know
Mostly
each other.
online friends.
Exactly.
Right.
Like I had only met Joanna maybe once or twice before this time.
Things are different in text than they are in
Yeah,
person.
and
Right.
she's like, "Oh, do we record in there?" And I'm like, "Yeah, come on in, baby." And I was like, "What? I can't say that to a person.
Yeah. Well,
It's weird."
But the way you told
come on
it to
in,
me,
baby.
that's the thing. I think you didn't deliver it correctly.
Sure.
Because
Come on in, baby.
You said you right.
Right, right.
You told me that you said it like that.
I think I did say it like that. I don't think I gave it the Griffin, curve.
That's my argument.
The
You got to give it the
screwball.
curve.
You got to give it the baby.
Baby.
Good job on the best ofs.
Oh, yeah.
Which
Thank
just
you.
dropped, saying baby.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I also have been doing it too, David, but I try to incorporate it more like where it's going to feel like special.
Yeah. You want to make them count. Want to put a little bacon on that sandwich, but not every time. Baby. What I was going to say is
Catch if can.
DreamWorks, 1997.
Jesus Christ.
There's a really clear point I'm trying to get to here, okay? 97, Spielberg's fucking, like, buying up shit, right?
Mm.
And much like Amistad, this was a movie where, like...
Oh, you're saying, right, he bought
this
the
was
rights
pitched
in
to
97.
them, and they were
right.
like, this is a perfect DreamWorks project, and then revolving door of directors.
You want to know some of the names?
I know Gore Verbinski came
Sure.
very close to doing it.
Fincher.
Dropped out late.
Fincher.
was on for a while. They threw it to Cameron Crowe. He was batting it around
Threw it
for
to
a little
Crowe,
bit.
who, it makes sense. On paper is a good fit for this.
Yes.
Lasse Hallström, who, he'll do any
Right.
bullshit. And Milos Forman, which
Yes.
is the most interesting.
Right.
Because Milos Forman, at that point, was in his, like, I'm back, and it's all biopics, like, Larry Flint, let's do it.
Man on the Moon, yeah.
Fucking Andy Kaufman, let's do it. Frank Abagnale, like, the biopic trilogy.
How weird is it that Milos Forman directed an Andy Kaufman movie?
It's really
we don't talk
odd.
about
and,
how
and
weird
it's
that is.
good. It's a good movie.
Yeah, it actually, I think, holds up better now than it... Like, at the time, I think it was crushed by weird expectations of how it would function.
And then, I
It's
think
weird
you're
that
right.
there's a big budget Andy Kaufman movie. Like, that's really
I
weird
think it's a
in and of
good
itself.
movie.
I do too.
found it very moving when I last saw it, which is probably like 10 years ago.
Giamatti rules.
Giamatti's
in that
great
movie.
in that. DeVito's
Oh,
like
DeVito's
quietly
so good.
terrific in that
Yeah.
movie. DeVito, man, you give him like a semi-serious role, he'll eat
Yeah,
it
like
alive.
the Penguin. He's so good at a somber, sparse performance.
Man, DeVito in Heist.
Yeah.
Mammoth Heist.
Yeah.
Ugh.
DeVito hasn't done a good dramatic supporting role in a while.
Yeah, because now he's. I
He's
was
a
at the Gotham
meme.
Awards.
He's
and
the Lorax now. Can't go back from
he's
that.
Literally out of his fucking mind. He got up at the Gotham's podium. He was introducing. They were giving a special award to this indie producer who I think he's worked with, because DeVito also great indie producer.
Jersey Films. He
Yeah,
produced
I know.
a fucking Pulp Fiction.
He got up and he just went, "Holy shit balls! Holy shit balls!" He did that for 5 minutes. It felt like 5 minutes.
And then he spoke for the Truffle Trees. Kicked
Kicked
Tova
himself in-
Felcher out.
Kicked Tova Felcher in the behind. Can you tell me the only other movie Milos Forman's made since Man on the Moon?
Goya's Ghost.
Yeah. What the fuck, man?
Good pull, though, right?
It's a very good pull
Can I just pat myself in the back quickly?
on the pulling Goya's ghosts.
No, I did the greatest pull of all time before we recorded.
Oh, go ahead.
You were asking me what the last time there was a live-action thing with a CGI mouth baby.
Yeah.
And I reminded you that there was a sitcom in the early 2000s called Baby Bob that was based off a commercial series for Quiznos.
You didn't know that part.
I didn't. I thought it was like a fucking .com startup.
Yeah.
But I named
You thought
all
it was.
4 regular cast
You
members.
did. Can you do it again?
Yes. The 4 regular cast. I don't know who was the voice of the baby.
It was some nobody.
The 4 regular cast members on Baby Bob, the CBS sitcom that lasted 14 episodes over 2 seasons, were Jolie Fisher and Adam Arkin as the parents,
True.
and Holland Taylor and Academy Award nominee Elliot Gould as the grandparents.
Correct. Do you want to take a sip there?
Yep.
A lot of famous, Jolie Fisher, famous Hollywood children in that movie.
Yeah, that's true.
Jolie Fisher and Adam Arkin.
Holland Taylor,
Holland. Who's her parent?
Jonathan Taylor Thomas.
Oh, dear.
The point I'm trying to make is DreamWorks. And in
I hate
1997,
you.
in 1997, buying spree, attaching all these
they pick up the
directors,
rights.
right? And then Spielberg has, much like Amistad, like, oh, maybe I'll direct it. And I think it came together pretty quickly.
I think that's how he, especially back then, but I think even now, that's how he's working, where he's like, oh, God, what should I do? What should I do? And then he sees something and he has some angle on how it's going to work.
Yeah.
And 6 months later, it's like he's done with the movie. Like, it happens really, really rapidly.
Yeah, he's always got like 10 movies percolating, and it's
I mean,
always
the
like
advantage of Spielberg is when he says he wants to do a movie,
Right.
the movie's happening. Like, you get the actors on board immediately. Like, anyone will do it.
But it feels like at any given time there are like 5 things he's had the rights to for a while that it's like, I don't know, he might make this now. And then there are a couple things that are just sort of flyers where it's like, oh, Bradley Cooper wants to do American Sniper, Spielberg's on it, and then he like leaves after 2 months. There's a
Right.
lot of that, of him like loosely attached and then he leaves the project,
Sure.
right? Like, I mean, he almost directed Juno. There are all these weird examples of like scripts that he was
Silly
early
things,
on.
yeah.
Right, okay. But I think it's interesting that it took him this long to attach to the movie because it feels to me like the most autobiographical Spielberg movie.
This one, well,
It kind of feels like the ear text to me.
okay.
Even
I
more
dis-
so
I
than
disagree with
E.T.,
you.
which
I was
people
gonna
always
say,
point to.
He's made a lot of movies about divorce.
Yeah.
But yes, I know what you mean. More to me, it's like it's him returning to territory he had for years been ignoring,
Yes.
which was essentially the troubled lives of children from broken homes, right? In some fractured form, right?
But from a very different angle and a very different style,
I agree.
I would argue.
Yeah.
Um,
And
What
then he does it again not long after with War of the Worlds, except it's like, what if my childhood but 9/11?
mhm. And War of the Worlds is from the parents' perspective.
It is.
But interestingly,
War of the Worlds is almost from Dakota Fanning's perspective. It's sort of, anyway.
Interesting.
We'll get to it.
Interesting to me is that DiCaprio was always attached. Like,
Mhm.
it was very nearly Gandolfini playing,
Yeah.
you
Hand Ready.
right. It was very nearly Ed Harris playing the walk-in role.
The dad, yeah.
Right.
Chloe Sevigny was cast as Brenda, as the
Amy Adams
yeah.
role. And like different directors had different castings, but it was like always DiCaprio, and this was before he locked in like I'm only working with heavy hitters and Zwick, because it's like I love Verbinski, but he hadn't done that much at this point,
Just Spielberg dropped Big Fish and Memoirs of a Geisha to
Right.
make this movie.
right? Which is fascinating because Big Fish was when he had his mitts on for a long time, really wants to do, and same with Geisha, and then he drops both. But it becomes a Spielberg film late. Verbinski dropped out because Gangs of New York ran over, and they the schedule didn't fucking line up, and then they pushed it, and then DiCaprio stayed on, and Spielberg took over, and the thing got set up, I think, pretty quickly, and they were off and running. And it was in one of those 2 movie years for Spielberg.
Yep.
Yeah.
As we've probably said already, Minority Report had come out 5 months earlier.
Right.
Yeah.
Christmas Day, Boffo box office.
Boffo.
Right. Outgrosses Minority Report, which I think was kind of surprising if you were to look at the beginning of that year and go, which of these is going to be more financially successful?
Yeah, but it was a Christmas movie. It just had that kind of long, nice January to February run where it's just making money.
And a big movie star movie.
Like 2 big movie stars in it. Hanks is at the tail end of his I'm a giant movie star, but I mean he's only 2 years out of Castaway.
Right. But
You know.
I think this is right near the end of his run where he has 10 consecutive $100 million grossers. He has the longest $100 million grosser streak of any actor until Will Smith beat him.
Pretty much.
I think everything after that thing you do until Road to Perdition makes
Correct.
100.
Correct. No, Road to Perdition made 100.
Right.
This is the last one. Yeah.
Oh,
this is the last
right.
one.
This is the last one in the 100 streak.
But I mean, if you excuse that thing you do in Philadelphia, it goes all the way back to A League of Their Own.
Which is nuts.
Yeah.
But this is him taking second billing, which is pretty crazy. For kind of, he's still America's guy.
Tommy H.
Yeah,
But this is a supporting role. He's playing off the ball.
which he doesn't usually
Doesn't
do.
usually do, but I would say he's both well cast and having fun.
And it speaks a lot to Spieley and the wattage of this movie of just man, this movie's so big that Hanks is second fiddle.
Mm-hmm.
But let's crack into the film.
No. DreamWorks.
The point is DreamWorks. Based on true story.
Based on a true story that had been novelized by autobiographed by Frank Abagnale in the 80s, in 1980.
Frank Abagnale
Junior.
Jr.
Junior.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's about a teenager, lives in, I think, Westchester or something.
New Rochelle.
That's in Westchester.
Sure.
Isn't it?
But I want to be specific.
Sure. In New Rochelle.
Um,
In Westchester County. Just
but
double checking.
this is what this movie is really about.
Mhm.
Those opening credits, though.
Great opening credits. And probably at a time where you're like, whatever happened to the opening credit sequence, right?
Right.
These sort of like Saul Zanet's type, like, like sort
Saul
of
Bass.
Saul Bass. No,
Yes.
Saul Zanet's is the director.
Yeah.
Saul Bass type, or whatever, Hitchcockian,
Yeah.
like, just jazzy,
And this amazing fucking
visually
score.
exciting.
Johnny Williams tinkling
This
those
thing
ivories.
and we were really Williams had been pushing it.
Mhm.
It was like Williams had become a little bit one note, maybe. I mean, the AI score is phenomenal, and the Minority Report score is
But it was a point. Well, yeah, I mean, he turns it around in the year before this, but it was like kind of like I get what the fucking Williams score
and
is.
he was becoming just like he'd just done the Harry Potter theme. It was like, oh, you need a big fantasy theme,
Right.
Get Johnny. And then this score is so like light and effortless and jazzy and
but also a little haunted. It's got a
good score.
hanging sadness over it, you know. Opening credit sequence, fucking awesome. Chase sequence, like cutout style, animation, and then we go straight to an episode of To Tell the Truth.
Yeah, which is a smart opening. Yeah,
Really smart.
and the look is so good.
Yes, he replicates it really well. He intercuts it with real footage of it's like Kitty Carlisle asking the question. A show I really liked. I used to watch Game Show Network a lot.
Interesting. I never have seen. Is the idea? It's like you have to figure out which one of the three is the actual person by asking the questions.
Correct. It was like match game style, a series of celebrity panelists.
What do you win? Like some money? Doesn't seem like a high money game. This one.
Yeah. It was if they don't figure out it's you, then I forget how the fuck it works. But it was, celebrity panelists, right? They bring out three people, and they go, one of these people is this. They give them the biography, and the panelists take turns asking questions of the three of them and seeing who they believe the most.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think it's either if you're the real person, they don't figure it out, you get money, or if you lie and you trick them, they get money, or whatever the fuck it is, right? Mm-hmm. The liars are the truth tellers are the ones. The celebrities are just fucking playing.
It's just... It's kind of interesting because it seems like more of a boring game show, but also like educational.
Yeah, I used to find it thrilling, but I was also a boring child.
Like right now, there's a game show called The Wall that was invented by LeBron James, which is just like Kerplinko or whatever it's called. It's just a giant, like massive Kerplinko.
Right?
Is that what it's called?
Plinko.
It's just Plinko.
Kerplunk is what you're
Kerplunk is the
combining
other
those two.
game. Both marble-based games.
Yeah, but Plinko is what you're thinking of. But To Tell the Truth is like a conversational, like fucking reel of character game show. It has a really good theme song and good like fucking graphics and shit. Just like us knowing because it's fucking DiCaprio and he's the dude above the title. We know he's playing the guy, that he's the one, and the camera kind of holds on him. Yeah, looking sort of uncomfortable in this situation as they're listing down. The announcer's going like, I pretend to be an airline pilot or this and that, and he's got this far off look, right? Mm-hmm. And then we jump to Tommy Hanks, right? I mean, this movie's like starting off on an interesting note because it's like extended credit sequence, the likes of which we rarely see. Okay. Then a game show sequence, right? Shot on like fucking like TV video cameras.
Shot on the 4:3, grainy video camera.
That clearly takes place after the main narrative of this movie because they're listing everything he's done that we haven't seen yet.
Yes.
And then we go to he's
in
already in
media
custody.
res. Yeah.
Right? Tom Hanks is going to visit him in France.
French prison.
To try to extradite him.
Yep.
Get him
and
out.
He's like, the beginning's rough because he's like coughing and like Leo has decided like, I'm going to cough like my lungs are about to fall out of my mouth. Do you remember this?
Oh, yeah.
He's like, blah, blah, blah. And you're like, oh my God. Like, I don't need this in my life. Right? Like, this is supposed to be a charming Christmas movie.
The best acting
I don't need
teacher,
fucking black lung. Oh, go ahead.
The best acting teacher I ever worked with, a wonderful woman named Elizabeth Camp, who I owe a lot to. I was in one of her classes once, and there were sort of these drop-in classes where it was like people might come for 1 week, they might come for a long time, they can be working on something, or they can want to work in general.
This is crucial information to this anecdote. Yeah.
There was a guy who came in once and did, I forget what character it was, but he picked a character from the play, and she was always like, don't do a scene from the text. Like, improvise a moment as the character. Do your own bit as the character. I don't want to see how well you can read the lines, right? And he was playing someone from a play who had disease, and he just sat on the stage and just did like the fucking Leo Catch Me If You Can cough for like 15 minutes and was just like wheezing.
Jesus.
And then she like stopped him and she was like, okay, so now we know you can do that.
Did he ever make a Lloyd team?
He never made a Lloyd team. But I just thought it was one of the best, like, okay, we get it. You're showing off like that you can hurt yourself.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's just like,
but that's not really acting, right? But in this, it works really well.
Well, yeah.
Because you have to pass this point of, like, we know what movie we bought a ticket for. It's
Sure.
Catch Me If You Can. This is the world's greatest con artist, right?
Catch if can.
He's coughing this much, and we know this is the end of the story. We know we're seeing something happening.
Except it's not the end of the story. Aha.
But because it's media res, because
I
the
know.
movie's a chase, and we're already at the... He's caught, right?
It's caught.
He is post-catch.
He's caught.
He's caught-rized. We're like, oh, boy, maybe he's not fucking messing with him. Maybe this is a real cough because it's really uncomfortable.
Sure.
Get him to the doctor. Hanks is like fucking and is busy like Spielberg, like fucking Warner, like frantic handheld camera shit, right? And it's like, get him here. I've been working my whole fucking career to find this guy. I'm not gonna let him go.
Yeah.
And it's like one continuous shot where they're going over and washing their hands, and then they go back over, and DiCaprio's
He's out of there, baby. Catch him if you can.
a really good use of like a oneer, where it's like, here's a oneer that plays off of the fact that we know in real time DiCaprio had to exit the set.
Yes.
Like the timing
It's a good one or two.
is impressive, you know? And then this great thing of like DiCaprio, beard, hair, looking horrible, hacking, coughing, trying very hard to run down the hallways of this French prison and escape, and everyone's like cheering him on. And it's like, okay, this guy's the legend
Sure.
at this French prison, and they end up catching him. He's too weak, right? They knock him down. And now the movie goes back to DiCaprio, who at this point in time is
16.
but as an actor is
Oh, interesting
28,
question.
29. I think this is interesting just because he pretty much
Yeah, he's 20. No, he's not that old. He's like 25.
okay.
He was born in 74. Yeah.
The oldest point of this movie, save for the game show,
He's
playing.
more like 26. Yeah. 26.
He's playing like 19 in this movie. That's the oldest he really
Essentially.
gets, right?
Well, yeah, basically. I mean, I guess in the final sequences when
Right.
he's older, I guess he's more
Yeah.
in his 20s. But yeah, he's playing a teenager.
Very convincingly.
Incredibly. His frame is so much slighter.
Yes.
Were we talking about his big head just a second ago?
Yes.
Big head. Less big head.
Uh-huh.
I don't know. Like, Leo's gotten pretty bulky.
He has
Not fat at all. Like, just sort of like, I don't know.
herdier.
Yeah, you know,
Stocky.
stockier. Yeah.
Yes.
And in this, he still has more of a boyish trim. Like in Titanic, you know, he's a very boyish like look. Like when you see him with his shirt off,
Right.
Which you do, right? I mean, in Romeo and
Yeah.
Juliet, you certainly do. Like, you know, he looks like, I mean, quintessentially '90s heartthrob,
floppy
right?
hair. Yeah.
Floppy hair, skinny.
But this is before he starts working aggressively to fight against his babyish face. I feel like he pretty shortly after this. Aviator, he's still half using it, half playing against it, and then from that point on, like from after 2004, he wants to look as haunted as possible, as raggedy as possible. Like I think he had a complex about looking too sculptural and too boyish, you
Right,
know, because he
right.
had this really youthful thing to him.
It's interesting because this shoots after he makes Gangs of New York, right?
Yeah,
And
especially
he's-
because they pushed it back.
And he's
here.
bulkier in Gangs of New York, although still boyish, but he is more like, you know.
But you have to think Gangs of New York shot in like 2000, right? He did
I
like
assume
post
so.
for a year. They thought it was going to come out in 2001. They pushed it a full year. He does like this movie in the year between Gangs of New York's first release date and its actual release date.
Yeah.
So a lot of time's passed.
Yeah.
Yeah. But they give him a really good teenager haircut.
Mhm.
And the first time we see him is at the thing for the dad, right? Is that
Yeah, you open on the
Immediate
Rotary
flashback,
Club
right.
giving the dad, and
Right.
Walken is
The mouse speech.
Walken is really only in those first like 25 minutes, like, and then
And he's
after
got
that
two
he's got
scenes
two
after
more
that.
scenes.
Right.
Like, so the beginning is and like it's just immediately, you know, like I think the first little thing they do is Walken puts him in the suit and hasn't pretended he's a chauffeur.
Yeah.
When he's going to the, you know, trying to get a bank loan.
Yeah.
And you're just immediately like something like absolutely dark is happening. Like, you know, like,
Yes.
this is all fucked up.
It's
And like the dad is kind of good at being like, no, it's fine. You know, like, what are you talking about? Things are going great.
it's like incredible layered casting because they use everything about Christopher Walken, including like his persona, to the advantage of the movie, which is like, here's this guy who's kind of like removed and unknowable, but is weirdly charismatic while also being creepy.
Exactly. There's just that's why Walken's perfect, and
Yes.
maybe Ed Harris might not have been
No.
like
Too hard edge.
He's too hard edge. Like Walken's so good at being charming and creepy at the same time.
Yeah.
And you don't know like which. And he's not playing a creep.
Right.
He's just playing like someone who's obviously terrible with money and like, it's like kind of slippery and like, just sort of probably like up to, he has his hands in the till or whatever,
But you think about this era of Walken before this, and certainly for years after this, when he's mostly doing like big studio comedies and hosting
and
SNL and becoming a joke, like becoming a meme, kind of.
He is, and he's playing like really silly characters, like in America's Sweethearts, which I think is that the year? That's the year before
2001,
where he's like the crazy director,
right?
I want to say this is right around the time he did that Fat Boy Slim video. I believe.
Correct.
Weapon of Choice is probably like then. Yeah,
I think it was 2001. I think it was the year before it.
Okay.
And the cowbell sketch was a year before this. 2001 was a big year for him.
Yeah, and Weapon of Choice is indeed 2001. Yeah, it came out the day before my birthday.
The day before you were born in 2001.
Yeah, that's right. I am 16 years old. Fucking Walken. And he dances in this movie. That was the point I was gonna make. People had rediscovered like, oh, Walken can dance because he like grew up dancing. Like he's a great dancer.
He was a dancer originally. But there is that bit where like his main stock and trade at that point was being funny.
Yeah.
And the comedy was played off of like, is this guy in on the joke or not?
Absolutely.
And it was always like,
I would say for a few years after he's
Yeah.
basically doing that. Like movies like Balls of Fury.
Sure, The Country Bears.
Sure.
And then Wedding Crashers, which has the gall to hire Christopher Walken and not have him do anything funny for the entire
His
movie.
role in Wedding Crashers
Makes no sense.
is the Martin Sheen role in this movie.
Yes.
Where it's supposed to be basically someone who has kind of an intimidating sort of presence.
Except with less jokes because that movie is...
Not funny.
Yep.
But also, Walken is bizarre in that movie. Bizarre. And like, you're right, horribly cast.
They don't give him anything to do, so it's distracting that a guy
He's
that
like the
weird is playing the
Secretary
dad.
of Defense or something, right?
He's got one good moment in that film.
What is
like
it?
one funny moment, and it's clearly a choice he made as an actor. It's when he goes into the bedroom after Isla Fisher has fucking tied Vince Vaughn up to the bedpost and tried to like rape him.
Yeah.
Which is and then the son tries to rape him too.
Let's
movie,
just move on. Just move through. It's a bad movie.
He goes into the room to talk to Vince Vaughn and pays no mind to the fact that
Oh
Vince
yeah,
Vaughn
that's
is tied
actually
to the
true.
bedpost.
It's very funny.
And while he's talking to him, he just rests his hand on the tie, the rope that's tied his arm to the bedpost, and just sort of strokes it while he's talking.
Because at this point, Isla
to him.
Fisher has left the room, I believe.
Right.
Yes.
And his son, who also tried to rape.
All right.
He makes one funny choice as an actor, and other than that character has no fucking jokes.
Click, though.
That Click, though.
Remember, he's in Click.
Yes. But that's the thing. Like, all the Christopher Walken comedy persona was like, okay, is this guy a child or is he a sociopath? Like, it's like, which is he? Is he oblivious? Is he a babe in the woods and that's why it's funny? Or is there something sinister about him? And the whole key to this movie is that it's like, the dad has to be kind of pathetic, kind of alluring, and a little bit unknowable.
Agreed. And he does a wonderful job.
And we immediately see just like Leo adores this movie.
Leo adores him, and they have this scene where they recount this obviously frequently recounted family story of how the parents met, you know, and it's the one moment where they seem genuinely sweet, like together, but it's like an echo, obviously, because like, shit is obviously falling apart.
Well, and it's also...
But that's where he dips her, and Leo's just so like entranced by that.
Yeah, he's just like staring. I mean, it's like... This movie, the first 15 minutes, gives you so many shots of Leo looking at Christopher Walken as if it's like Richard Gere seeing Julia Roberts appear from the top of the stairs in Pretty Woman, Yeah,
absolutely. But then there's things that I like are, obviously, so you've got Walken being, a little shady.
And working these, like, minor, weird
tiny
hustles,
scams,
like, to get rent a suit,
Right, exactly.
Like, the fact that he puts that much energy into getting a suit so that the son can
and
pretend
I like
to be a chauffeur.
his weird thing about, like, why the Yankees win? Because the pinstripes. And then Leo repeats that to Tom Hanks. Tom Hanks is like, what? No, Mickey Mantle.
Mickey Mantle. Which was Leo's first guess, and the dad's like, no, pinstripes. And Leo's like, right, pinstripes.
Pinstripes, I knew it.
Yeah.
But of course, I mean, what his dad is teaching there is something that Frank Abagnale then, Jr. begins to copy, right? Which is essentially, if you dress the part, people are 90% of the way to believing that you are the part.
Yes.
And obviously, what Leo's got going for him is that he is incredibly boyishly handsome and not weird Christopher Walken.
Well, and it's also a movie star movie. Like, hey, everyone, take out your web-connected devices and Google Frank Abagnale right now. And marvel at how little he looks like Leonardo DiCaprio, right?
Right.
And in real life, the real Frank Abagnale, clearly because he didn't have those features, had to like really fucking just use his smarts and his charisma without immediately being able to rope people in just from his visage, right?
Right.
But in a movie where you need to like tell a story quickly, it's like you need someone like Leonardo DiCaprio who not only has that like 1,000-watt like, you know, fucking movie star charge, but also that face where it's like when he shows up on screen, of course you're going to pay attention to this guy.
Yeah.
But this movie is about, among other things, confidence as a currency.
Absolutely.
That's like the big thing that it's got going on.
And of course, that is the sort of yin-yang happening with Tom Hanks' character, Hanratty, right? Where it's like, which is one thing I love is like, you've got this movie star movie with Leo being a big movie star.
Right.
You can take another movie star and you turn him into like the biggest dork you can. Like, I mean, and Hanks is hilariously buttoning everything down and just being he's a party pooper.
And not only is he like the biggest movie star, but he's like America's dad. Like he's
Right.
the guy where it's like Hanks is always this voice of reason. You always want to root for him. He always just seems like a good American guy.
Except in this, he's like a divorced, kind of miserable little
He's like
shit.
a bummer. Like every
he's like
season
the
is a
one guy
bummer.
in the bank fraud department who wants to be in the bank fraud department. Like
Right.
part of the joke is like everyone else is like being punished by like the FBI for fucking up somehow else. Like
Because even like Road to Perdition's the year before this, and he plays
no,
like a mobster.
It's the same year, 2002.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. It's like in fact it was pretty recently.
Yeah.
Right. It's like in November.
No, it was a summer release. It came out in July.
You're right.
That
and
was
that's
the time you could
insane.
still release that movie
They
in the
released
summer.
that movie in which it is constantly raining.
Yes.
And like it's shot like a 30s serial. Like,
They released it on like
Very
Big
wet.
Willie weekend.
It's a
very
wit
wet.
movie.
Yeah.
A wit movie.
It's a
movie.
wit movie.
July 12th.
What I was going to say is, in that movie, he plays someone who has murdered people, and it's easier to root for him in that movie than this movie.
Absolutely. In that movie, you're like, murder those people, Tom Hanks.
But it also is like, they position him in that movie as like, well, he's a criminal, but also, deep down, he's Tom Hanks.
Yeah. I
And
mean,
this
it's
movie-
actually it's
Sure.
the flaw with Road to
Sure.
Perdition, even though I think he's actually quite good in Road to Perdition.
I do too.
Yeah.
This movie is like really dampening Tom Hanks, though. It's like, wait, why do I usually root for this guy? It's a great character actor performance.
You kind of root for him. Like there is something about it. Like you do want him to get him.
Well, here's the thing I love.
Yeah.
You want him to get him because Leo's
You want
a
them
piece
together.
of shit.
Leo's a piece of shit, but he doesn't know what he's doing. I mean, he's like a wild.
Right. Leo's a piece of shit in the movie. He's doing so many fucking shitty things to everyone around him, but he's so much fun to watch,
He
right?
is, and you're
And it
just
is
like,
this,
"Ah,
like, right.
he's gonna catch him again.
And
he's gonna
Hanks,
keep going.
Hanks, is morally right.
Right.
And he's an inevitability, right? And so, like, you want him to catch him because it's like, this guy should be caught. But on the other hand, it's like, this guy's a fucking bummer.
He's a bummer, and nobody
the
likes
character's
him.
a bummer, right?
And
that's
there's,
big that no one likes.
nobody enjoys him. I mean, there's that
The
very
char-
funny
yeah.
scene early on where he's like, "I have a joke for you.
Knock, knock. Go fuck yourself.
Go fuck yourself." And then you see him repeat it, but they don't do the
They
conclusion, which
cut
is
for
great.
knock, which is a great edit.
Hank's character sort of represents like responsibility, right? Like
I
that
guess
we
so.
all have
Yeah.
to be a responsible person at
Ooh,
some
Ben,
point.
you're building up my hot take I'm getting to
But
here.
the thing
Yeah.
about the movie is that it's not about that at all.
I disagree, but we'll build to that.
Okay.
Um,
I mean, I know what you mean, but the movie is also about like, you know what? In America, if you're good at something, it doesn't matter how many laws you break. Like, you will succeed.
I once again, I think it's confidence as a currency.
Sure.
That in a country,
But I mean, he's good at the thing at the end. Like, it's not just
Yeah.
confidence. Like, he knows how to forge a check better than anyone in the world,
sure,
you know? And that's a skill in our capitalist society.
it's an acquired skill.
Yeah.
As a byproduct.
Because he's built up some. Anyway, go on.
But you look at the beginning of the movie when, his first con he pulls is, and we're getting, early on this looming thing of
It's a
Walken
great-
making these offhand references to the IRS, right?
Walken's making these offhand, but he's also sort of vaguely teaching Leo the art of persuasion.
Right.
You know?
And he's brushing off the IRS stuff.
Mhm.
But this is like, okay, here's a tangible, real world thing that is capable of killing the power of his confidence.
Sure.
Right? Like he goes into the bank and they're just like, these numbers don't lie. And he's doing all his walk-any tricks. And
Yeah.
they're like, yeah, but you're being audited by the IRS.
Yeah,
like,
we can't give
get
you
around
a
this.
loan. Like,
And
yeah.
every time it comes up, the wife gets a little uncomfortable,
Right.
right? This scene where they have to downgrade a lot, right? They move from
to
their
an
nice
apartment,
house, they sell the car, all this shit, and they move to the apartment, and they're bummed out, and now Leo has to go to a new school, and he goes to the new school wearing his fucking private
Looking
school
like a square
uniform jacket.
Yeah. And they make fun of him, so then he decides,
Bully
like,
bumps
you know
into
what?
him when he's trying to talk to a nice girl at the locker.
Right. You know what? I'm just going to pretend I'm a I'm a teacher.
And he fucking
Because
does
I look the part. Right.
He fucking does it, right?
That's his first. It is a really good scene though when he does that because it's like a weird little fantasy that you didn't know you had. Like,
Right.
oh, what if I could have done that? Yeah.
And the substitute teacher walks in.
She's great. Who is that?
He's lucky that on the day the real teacher is called out, and when the substitute teacher comes in, he just doesn't even hesitate for a second. He's just like, "I'm sorry they made you come all the way here. You know, I'm sorry. I don't know what to tell you."
It's true.
And then I think hard cut to the parents meeting with the principal, and you think that he's going to say like, "Hey, we just busted your son doing this," and instead he's like, "Your son's been doing this for the last 2 weeks." You know?
Yeah.
It's like he's successfully
And he's
run
like planning
this
a
con.
trip.
Right.
Yeah, like to a school trip to like a French bread factory.
Which I love that this movie kind of presents him as like fully formed. It's
That's
not like the first time he has a lie work
Right,
and then he's like
playing-
aha.
No, but the thing about it as well is that I like that he's good at his cons. Like,
He's innately good at this.
It's not just that he's good at pretending. Like, then he's like a decent French teacher who wants to take them to the French bread factory.
Right.
Like, he commits. Right, and you see that again and again. Like, he commits to being a lawyer. He passes the bar. Like, you know, he doesn't really know much past the veneer, but he, like, wants to be, like, good at the job.
Well, it's so much less about the money for him than it is about the status.
Yeah.
And he wants people to look at him that way, you know? Like he wants the power and the respect of being someone who has risen to a position that takes years to get to.
Yeah.
And so he wants to like pass.
Yeah.
You know?
Right, exactly. Yeah.
It's also a little bit about the trick, though, right?
Yes.
It's a little bit
of
about
course, the thrill of the trick.
the magic trick, and you're never going to reveal, right? Like
Right.
what's really going on.
And, you know, Frank Abagnale himself, I mean, this is more truly, has talked about, like, look, I was a kid. I was having sex with girls. Like, this was great. Like,
Right.
you know, like once he really got into the whole, you know, check, paper or whatever they call it. Like, you know,
Yeah, in
just
this movie,
being a
like,
Playboy.
look, they give you the early moment, but I think, you know, he sold the book and then had no correspondence with them. He like once he sold the book, didn't read the script, had no approval,
Sure.
was not really a consultant or anything, and he was like, I didn't know what they did until I saw the movie from the time I sold the book. And so they definitely took what they wanted from his story and like reframed it in ways. He said that he never saw his dad after he left home.
Interesting.
But he was like, but the things they added are kind of a really good depiction of what was going on in my head.
Sure. But, like, that is such a Spielberg thing to, you know, focus in on.
But
You know,
what's
I'm sure
crazy-
Spielberg read the script and was like, the dad is so crucial.
What's
to
crazy
this,
is
you
he's
know?
like, yeah, they hit on that. That's like a deeper
Sure.
truth.
Sure.
Even it feels like a Spielberg contrivance, but he's like, that was the root of what was going on here, right?
Still Spielberg contrived.
100%. Yeah, so he goes on the French trip, or he gets busted.
Doesn't matter, yes.
Right. And
Then his parents file for divorce. You know, he's
Mom's
already
sleeping
he's
with
already
another
figured out
guy.
that his mom's sleeping with James Brolin.
that scene's really fucking well done.
and alarming.
Yes.
Like, you know, both of those scenes are alarming. The scene where he comes home and he realizes what's going on, and then the scene where he comes home and they're like, look, it's fine. They're getting divorced. You just
Right.
need to write down here which parent you want to live with. It's not a test. It's not a big deal. Like,
And the framing is really similar between the two scenes. I think it's almost the exact same shot between the scene where he comes home and James Brolin walks out and he's like, what the fuck is this guy doing here? And quickly puts it together. And the scene where he comes home and the divorce lawyer comes out.
Yeah.
And so when the divorce lawyer comes out, it's like, is this another guy my mom's sleeping with? Is this an IRS guy?
Right.
Like, which thing is this? And then it's like, no, it's the third thing you hadn't even anticipated. Really good fucking Spielberg oneer on the Brolin, where they
Brolin's so big.
so big.
And he, like, I just mean wide. Like, and
Beefy.
he just sort of like, he's always standing and Leo's
Yeah.
sitting a lot of the time. It's just like imposing and, ugh.
But most of
Yeah.
that sequence plays out in this one wide shot with all three of them in frame, moving around, so you really get the sense. And like Brolin and the mom are moving around a lot, trying to overcompensate and make it all look normal.
Sure.
Even through when Brolin leaves and it's just her talking to Leo, and Leo, once he puts it together, just sits down in the chair and does this like fucking middle distance stare,
yeah.
where he's just like not gonna cry, not gonna yell,
Not going to acknowledge
not
this.
fucking happy.
Right. Yeah.
It's like really good physical acting from
Okay,
Leo.
let's move forward.
Parents get divorced. They go, you have to pick a person. Pick a person.
Yeah.
pick a person.
Okay, we got to move forward. 'cause we
Great
don't have
creepy
much
French
time.
grandmother. Don't you remember her? She's talking in French.
She's good. I mean, when the minute I said it, I said to Joanna, I'm like, I wish I had a scary French grandma. I think Griffin had a scary French grandma.
I kind of, yeah.
You had a French grandma.
kind of.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
French on the my mom's father.
I see.
My grandmother
A
pretended she
quasi-French.
was French
I see.
once she moved to France. But I have a lot of creepy old French ladies I met like that through my mom. And then he just runs.
He runs, and not long later, he figures out that, like, it's the 60s, and one of the most glamorous jobs in the world is an airline pilot.
Because his dad gives him a checkbook, and he's just sort of running off of writing checks before people realize he doesn't have any
He's
cash.
faking checks, and then he figures out, like, yeah, you could...
He's using real checks, but with no money.
Now, listen, kiddies, all right? Now, before the internet,
God damn it, Ben.
before the, computers, right, ruled everything, you could just write a check, and it would take days for that to reach the bank.
Yeah, none of this Lucas Venmo stuff.
Yep. And you could just be a scammer, man.
Checks the original Venmo. And yeah, he realizes that, like, in the 60s, when commercial flights are a pretty new thing, and are really hitting vogue and becoming more accessible to the masses.
Super glamorous, and stewardesses are super glamorous, and Pan Am is a super glamorous brand.
That's what he's going to do.
Sure. And then he also quickly realizes, like, you put a fucking Pan Am logo on a check, you can get more money.
Yes. Well, it's that he goes to the hotel and goes, like, do you cash checks?
We
they're like,
don't need to recount every little bit of the scam. Go on.
We cash up to, $100, but if it's a payroll check, we'll go up to $300.
Indeed.
I always...
Do you just like the toy airplane scam?
I love that.
It's good to get the little Pan Am.
In the bathtub. That image, like, always really stuck with me.
There's a lot of terrific images in this movie.
Yeah.
Now, this movie is shot by Janusz in just classic Janusz style. Fucking pulls a light through the windows, like those classroom scenes.
Yeah.
He's just, he can't help it. He can't help himself.
But
this movie should have a different look. It doesn't. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
This movie should probably have more of a vintagey 60s look. It doesn't really.
Well, what I find
costuming
fascinating about the look of this movie is, from an art direction standpoint, very bright colors, right? Very poppy.
Yeah.
From a cinematography standpoint,
washed out,
dark, muted,
pools
shadowy,
lots of natural light, much less sort of gauzy studio lighting.
Right, like he's putting a cloud over the natural sunlight of what's going on in these scenes.
Look, I mean,
foreboding.
The thing is, like, the thing we're not talking about in this Spielberg that we've identified is, like, I mean, he starts with Schindler's List, but it's also like Spielberg and Janusz.
Yeah.
Like, and Janusz is like this sad, weird Polish dude who Spielberg meets, and he's like, Spielberg's like, I'm going to make this movie. And Janusz is like, but sad. Like, he just comes in and he's like, mute. Like, shall we, like, let's make everything a little more melancholy.
But Spielberg also, I mean, he's in his sad period.
He is.
All
he's in a sad little period.
Are sad.
This is his blue period?
Yeah. And so, yeah, he quickly becomes an airline pilot. And Spielberg throws out the first of his, or no, it's the second of his, this movie, he, like, called shots on, like, 4 to 5 actresses who would blow up later.
It's crazy.
It's crazy. We have Elizabeth Banks who tries to run a check scam on.
It works.
It works.
She's the one, Lizzie Banks, in her 2 scenes, that laugh.
Yeah.
That laugh, though.
Yeah, that laugh, though.
Same year she's in Spider-Man, right? So
yes.
She's,
Year after Wet
year
Hot.
after is Seabiscuit.
Year before Seabiscuit.
We've got Ellen Pompeo of Grey's Anatomy as a stewardess who he fucks.
Back in the time when I thought she was going to be one of America's great character actresses, and instead just got stuck on a medical drama for 27 years.
Because she was cut out of Eternal Sunshine. What else was she cut out of? That was the year where she was cut out of Daredevil. She's cut out of Daredevil.
Yeah, she's barely in it. She's in for like
no,
one line.
but they cut. That's what I'm saying. They cut a huge amount of her. Right. Yeah.
And then she's really good in Old School.
Oh, God. I haven't seen Old School in a long time. It's not a movie I'm fond of.
I like that movie a lot. I think that's like the one movie, after ragging on Wedding Crashers, that's the one movie of that wave that I think is still really strong.
Right.
And she's really, really good in it. And it just felt like she had bigger things ahead of her. And then, look, she made an assload of money, and she's had fucking steady work.
Pompeo's fucking rich
but she, like, doesn't do anything other than Grey's Anatomy.
That's what happens.
It's one of those bummers.
And Amy Adams, we'll get to her.
And Jen Garner.
And Jennifer Garner, who was already on Alias, and Spielberg
They shot this in, like, the middle of first season of Alias.
I want a scene with Jenny Garner.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't like that scene.
We'll get to that scene.
We will?
Yeah, I want to talk about it briefly.
Okay. Well, let's move it along then. If you want to talk about that scene, then let's move it along.
I always had remembered her performance being really bad in this movie. Like, I remember seeing it in theaters and being like, she's really bad in this.
It's fine.
And then I watched it last night, and I kind of think she's pretty good in it.
Yeah, it's okay.
The thing that threw me off as a child is that I was like, she doesn't seem confident enough for this role. Like, it feels like a kid playing dress up, where I don't buy her being as powerful as the character is presented to be. And now I watch it, and I'm like, oh, she's playing a child. That's the whole point, is that she's like the female version of
That's how I always took it.
DiCaprio.
Yeah, it's like he's running into himself, but
like,
you know,
the vulnerability and the
yeah.
uneasiness is baked into the cake. And that scene is essentially like a fucking duel between two bullshit artists who are both like kids trying to play in a grown-up world of what their currencies are.
Yeah.
And hers is her physical appearance, and his is his confidence. I mean, also his physical appearance. But anyhow.
Yeah.
He starts running the airline scam, and it grows from there. Okay, he goes to do the interview. He gets all the information for them, pretending to be a school reporter, and then he finds out where they get their suits made, and he goes, I lost it. It's just like a really smart process thing of like, you see every bit of how he figures out what he needs to in order to pull this off.
And it's interesting because that's the early part of the movie
Yes.
where we're learning his craft, and then that means in the later part of the movie when he is, you know,
Making
debuting,
huge jumps.
graduating to more outrageous schemes, like, we get it. Like, he's got the money.
We understand how meticulous he is. We understand the types of routes he would take to pull these things off.
You have that, but then, and so then in parallel, we're with Tom Hanks,
Yeah.
you know, who's tracking this guy.
Right, because there's a big gap with no Hanks.
A decent-sized gap.
Like,
Pretty
the opening
early
chunk of the French prison, and then he's not in it for like 20 minutes after that.
That's correct. And then he's back once the crimes start to ramp up.
And they're like, this guy, best fake checks we've ever seen.
Yeah, really good fake checks. And they track him to a hotel, and you get that early scene where they meet each other. Great scene. Where Leo essentially runs the sort of like, he runs the same fucking scheme in Inception. What the hell do they call it in Inception? I
The
forget.
COBOL?
Yeah, the thing where, yeah, exactly. Yeah, where you're just like,
COBOL
oh,
drop,
yeah,
yeah.
no, I'm with you.
Yeah.
Where is that guy, right?
Yeah.
You know, like, and Hanks is like, right.
Right,
You know,
yeah.
like, and that's good, though, because then they have that early, like, adversarial, like, establishment.
Well, and I love that, like, the movie was, like, pitched as, like, it's Hanks versus DiCaprio. The title is Catch Me If You Can. The poster is two blurry bodies, like, running so fast you can barely catch them both in the poster. And then the movie gives you, like, it opens with, like, him already caught, right? And then the first time we actually, like, they cross paths within the main narrative of the film, it's like, they're right there. They're in the same room.
Yep.
He fucking has
Really
him.
early. Yeah.
Right. And
like,
you just
probably
see,
45 minutes into the movie, maybe?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
right.
Into a 2-hour, 20-minute movie.
The beginning of his chase,
Yeah.
he's nabbed him.
Mm-hmm.
And DiCaprio gets out of that, and you realize just how powerful this guy is.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
And of course, then that gives you a reason to understand
personal
why
investment.
Hanratty is really hell bent on getting him.
because it's all, once again, confidence as a currency, he's embarrassed now.
Yeah.
He's got to prove this because this is such a fucking, like, stain on his resume. He looks like a goddamn idiot being in the same room as a 17-year-old and being conned into thinking that he's Secret Service, right?
Yeah.
So he now is fighting for confidence.
True.
To believe in himself again.
You're really in on this confidence idea.
Confidence is a currency, bro.
Fair enough.
But yeah, DeCap's got to pivot, right?
Got to pivot.
Because they all know about this fucking airline dude. There's even the scene where he goes back to the dude that he's been interviewing for the school paper. And he's like, yeah, this fucking dude is driving us crazy.
Yeah.
Going all these airlines, everything but our airline.
Right.
And you're just like, oh, he's been working this for months, but is still going back to the TWA guy and getting information out of him, which I love.
Yeah.
I love that, like, he doesn't stop, like, okay, I know everything. He's like, I gotta always be learning. I can always be better.
ABL.
Right. What's a better typewriter I can get to make better fake checks? Like, this dude is meticulous about his craft.
Sure.
Right?
Okay.
This is all building up to my...
What's your big point?
What gets into
Oh, my God.
And I think pretty shortly after this, right? It's like there's you see his crazy like fucking beach house now, and he's got all these people over, and it's the life that everyone would like dream of, right?
Right.
There's the James Bond thing, which is cute.
Yeah, although, I mean, whatever. The joke is, of course, that like half of it is he's this meticulous comment, and then half of it he's like a kid, so he like gives himself all these comic book names as aliases. He
Barry
watches
Allen.
it. Barry Allen, Frank Connors, which is, you know, like Kurt Connors. I always assumed. I don't actually know.
I don't know who Frank Connors.
Frank Connors is the name, but Connors, I assumed he was being the lizard. I mean,
maybe
Dr. Connors.
Yeah,
I mean,
sure. Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
Because he's always Frank, or he's
Right,
usually
right.
Frank. And then also, he watches like James Bond. And he's like, I want a suit, Miss Moneypenny. And he watches the lawyer show. Is it Perry
Dr.
Mason
Kilgore,
or Dr. Kilgore? One of those shows.
Kilgore, whatever the fuck.
And
Dr. Kilgore is the medical show, and then
Dr.
Perry
Kilgore
Mason is the lawyer.
the Do You Concur?
Right, right.
Yes, and then Perry Mason for all that. He's like, he's still a kid. I mean, and that's halfway through the movie. That's what Tom Hanks like cracks open is like, oh, this is a teenager. That's why I don't get this guy.
And that's also why it's the perfect, like, he's a con artist because he has no fucking record.
Exactly. That's why he doesn't show up anywhere, and that's why, like, exactly.
And DiCaprio, like, threads this really good needle of, like, believably playing a 17-year-old, but also playing a 17-year-old who convincingly enough plays a 28-year-old that you can buy him as both in the moment.
That's why he's well cast.
Yep.
Well cast.
Yep.
So at a certain point, he, as things move along, he gets his beach house.
Oh, I want to say the thing I like about the James Bond thing is Spielberg always famously wants to direct a James Bond movie really badly. Even after, like, Jaws and Close Encounters of Big Success, and the Broccolis, who own James Bond, would never let him do it.
They don't let Americans.
And it was, like, this moment where he was like, what do I have to fucking prove to make a James Bond movie? That's all I want to do is make a James Bond movie.
But it's not about that. Like, the Broccolis want people that, they can control. Like,
right.
They don't really want somebody who's going to, like, do a whole fancy thing.
But he was, like, really torn up over, like, what do I need to do to win over the Broccolis? And his buddy Georgie Porgy,
said,
is
make
like,
Indiana Jones.
I got something better for you.
Right.
James Bond with a whip.
Okay. Moving on.
I like him getting to do a little Bond, is my point. Because it feels like him being like, I got to do 2 seconds of Bond.
His beach house. He becomes a doctor.
Well, he's got all this money, all these people are over, and he's just, like, stressed out about them dealing with all his shit.
Sure.
Why does he go to the hospital in the first place? He's looking for somebody?
I don't think it's even really clear. He just goes to a hospital. He's talking to her.
He sees Amy Adams. He's very charmed
talking to
by
Amy
her.
Adams. She's got the braces, and he's, like, learning the system from her. And then he's like, you got any jobs here? And she's like, yeah. And he's like, I'm a doctor. And so then he's decided to be a doctor.
Well, I think,
these are the days where you could just print a fucking diploma and, like, it'd be hard to prove that you weren't a Harvard graduate or whatever.
It's so hard to get the technology. It's not like today where it's like you can make anything in Photoshop. It's like, who would take the time to make a fake diploma? That's so like costly.
But I mean, of course, that was
involved.
That is the classic thing of, like, most of the flim flams, like paper moon scams, like all that shit.
It's like, well, there's so many details. Like, who would take the time to make this shit up? The big thing in the Amy Adams scene, though, the first scene, is that we see him at this house with a bunch of people who are older than him, right? And they're all, like, fun and fancy free, and he's just, like, stressed out.
Don't break anything.
Ball of nerves. Like, I don't know how to, like, let go, right? And the thing he's immediately attracted to in Amy Adams is she's got braces. And I think that's, like, key because it's like...
Well, he wants to talk about it because he just got his off.
And he's a kid.
Yeah, and he's like, it still feels weird I still have to wear my retainer.
And she's someone who's nervous and uncomfortable in her job that she's going to fuck up.
Yeah.
And as much as confidence is his currency, he obviously has to live with that fear at all times. And he clearly can't relate to adults. And then he meets her, and it's just like, A, I need to be near her. Yeah. B, I guess doctor's cooler than pilot, right?
Sure. So makes this hard. This is the second act of the movie, is him being like, maybe I can play family, right? Like,
I think it's a 5-act movie, but yeah.
Okay, fine. 4-act.
First act, I think, is up until he runs away. Second act is
pilot. Third act is romance, whatever.
Yeah.
Settling down. And then the fourth act is your conclusion, you're getting caught and reforming.
Doctor, right. Yeah.
I don't know. Something like that. But, so in trying to settle down with her, right? I mean, Martin Sheen, who is so good in this movie. Such a great, like, what's he in, 5 scenes? Like,
yeah, if even, yeah.
Just so good at being equally, like, very threatening and sort of, like, seems almost like he completely knows what's going on right away.
But also so oblivious.
But also oblivious and, like, warm and father figure, like, ultimate father figure. So it's like you immediately can see why Frank would be like, I have to satisfy this man. I'm a lawyer too. Like,
Well, Martin Sheen's just one of those fucking steady hand actors where when he shows up in a movie, you're like, okay, I can sit back. Mm-hmm. This guy's got me. Like, nothing's going to fucking fall as long as he's on screen.
He's so good.
And also, from, like, his fucking breakout in Badlands, through to, like, he's doing West Wing at the same time as this. Whether he's playing a guy in the right side of the law, the wrong side of the law, an adversary, your hero, he's just a guy where you're kind of just innately drawn to him and rooting for him, know?
True.
Like, there's something just really compelling and authoritative about him, regardless of what he's actually fighting for. Spielberg said, like, he needed a guy who just the second he showed up on screen, you're like, oh, he's been able to, like, fucking go face-to-face with Tom Hanks and, like, outwit him. But Martin Sheen shows up on screen, you're like, it's going to be tough to get one over on Sheen.
Sure.
And you immediately feel that. You're like, this might be the roadblock, you know?
Yeah.
He,
yeah.
like,
well,
talks his way out of everyone.
That scene where first he asks the, what was his little dog's name question. And then when Frank's asking him to marry him.
Right.
I mean, Frank's asking to marry Brenda.
And he does this moment where he tries to come clean because
he
can
drops
tell.
the act and he's like, I'm just a kid who loves your daughter. But of course, I mean, it's one of those clever little movie
You're
things.
romantic like
right,
me.
Right, yeah.
Can we talk about Amy Adams' performance?
Just wonderful.
I mean, unbelievable in this movie.
I mean, hot take. Pretty good actress,
She's
Amy
like,
Adams.
right. I mean, she's like one of, if not my favorite living actors.
Hey, also a cutie pie.
Yes.
Hoo boy.
Yes.
She's a cutie pie. I mean, she'd been in Drop Dead Gorgeous and in, what's it called, Psycho Beach Party. Like,
Right.
she was sort of like this, indie actress you noticed, I guess.
Did a lot of TV.
She's in an episode of Buffy. She'd been in Smallville, I remember.
Yeah.
Like, she would pop up.
We looked it up. She was on like a couple sitcoms too,
She was in the Cruel Intentions pilot that got turned into a movie called Cruel Intentions 2.
which was like a softcore movie. They took the 45 minutes
They took
of
the pilot
plot.
and they put some porn in it. Yeah.
Right. They put like
what a weird
they
thing.
put like topless sisters making out in
Who
a shower.
thought it was a good idea to do a Cruel Intentions TV show?
No, and they're trying to do it again now. Do you know that?
Oh, of course I know.
And now
that.
they're doing a fucking musical. Maybe let that thing lie.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, forget it.
Yeah.
Put it on ice.
Put it on ice.
So then this year,
But she always talks
No,
about that.
I
she
meant like put it on ice, like Cruel Intentions on ice.
Oh yeah, no, that's a good idea. Ben, yes, 5 comedy points. Or 5 entrepreneur points.
shut up, crazy people. So
Maybe
your
you're
point-
the crazy one.
Well, so I mean, I've heard that like it was one of those things. Spielberg just loved the audition and gave it to her over like more famous actresses.
Yes,
There
100%.
was someone who was close. I want to look it up. Keep talking.
But she's got single card billing in this movie, right? With like heavy hitters. You know, you look at the opening credits, DeCaps, Hanks, fucking Sheen, Natalie Bay, who plays the mom, or Walken, obviously. Natalie Bay, who plays the mom, is like a huge actor in France, right?
Sure.
And then like Amy Adams. And you're like, that's big for like an unknown actress to have like solo
She's above
card bill.
Sheen.
Yeah.
In
Crazy.
in the billing order. I
Right?
mean, she's in a chunk of the movie.
Oh, yeah,
you know.
yeah, yeah.
It's a
But I'm
big
just saying,
performance.
this is a big step up.
Yeah.
from
Now, your
obscurity.
argument is, isn't it funny that this wasn't her breakout role in a weird sort of a way?
Because it was a huge hit of a movie,
Mhm.
and I feel like I talk to people about how good she is and how consistently good she's been in, and I go, Catch Me If You Can, and they go, who is she in Catch Me If You Can? I go, she's like the lead
Okay.
female. She's
No,
like this.
no, that's stupid. Nobody thinks that. People know she's in Catch Me If You Can, right?
I talk to a lot of people who forget that it's her.
I've got a hot take for you. Those people are stupid.
I agree.
Stupid people.
I agree.
The weird thing is, she doesn't really do anything after this for a while.
2 years, fucking
2
nothing.
years, nothing. But then suddenly she's in everything. So maybe it was just some weird slow burn where then suddenly she was getting a zillion projects at the same time because she's in Talladega Nights, she's in Junebug, she's in like The Wedding Date. You know, like she like suddenly is like pop, 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 pop.
But doesn't do anything for 2 years after this. Then does just TV and an indie movie I've never heard of. And then the year after that is The Wedding Date, which is like a fucking Deborah Messing vehicle,
Yeah.
right?
Leave Deborah Messing alone.
Junebug, which, you know, hindsight's 2020, but on paper wasn't like, oh, this is a slam dunk. This is what you get after
No,
being in a
but
Spielberg movie.
it had a sort of semi like serious cast, so maybe you're, but yes, for sure.
And great script, but first-time director, who knew? One of my favorite movies of the decade. I love that movie.
I like that movie. I
I
think
love it.
she's wonderful.
I think she's wonderful. I think
I
that
haven't
movie's a
seen it
masterpiece.
in years.
Yeah, I watched it a lot. I think it's a really
Crazy.
underrated movie.
Crazy.
And then it's like, okay, underdog best supporting actress contender,
Right.
but still that movie didn't do a lot of box office. She's kind of like a hot buzzy actress.
Yeah, but she won like a ton of critics awards. I mean, at that point she was,
right.
but then.
But it was like, is she going to be a character actress?
Sure.
Then she starts appearing in everything. Then she starts doing fucking Talladega Nights. But these supporting roles in everything. And then Enchanted is a big deal that she gets that over bigger kind of A-list actresses.
Right. She's
and
great.
Disney anoints her, and then she's a movie star.
Yeah.
It just took a while. It took 5 years after,
Things.
Catch Me If You Can to become like a big
Sometimes you
studio
gotta
leading
put
actress.
the work in.
All I'm trying to say is careers are really long, and it's really
Sure.
interesting to watch. Like
It is.
Amy Adams gets plucked from obscurity in
You
a
know,
Spielberg
she's-
movie, knocks it out of the park, and still it takes 5 years before she's
She
headlining
might have
shit.
had to work as a waitress after being in this movie.
She might have had to work part time at the Disney store, just like me.
Yeah.
You guys are all out of your minds.
Amy Adams is phenomenal in this movie.
She's 42 now, so like it took her a while.
Yeah.
Great in this movie.
I love her in this. I think it's a great performance. I think one line delivery alone announces her as
You're not a Lutheran?
Yeah.
Great line delivery. That's such a sad scene.
Yeah.
So, cause he builds this con. He becomes a lawyer. He's going to settle down with her. He gets caught, obviously.
Yeah.
And so he's fleeing. He's like, it's a great thing, like that's expertly choreographed with Leo, where he's like, "You would trust me if I, everyone has secrets," and he pops open the briefcase full of money.
Dollars are literally flying out.
I mean, there's that great shot where the dollar bill like flies past Tom Hanks. There's so many nicely like also that shot of all like the guns dancing.
Yes,
love that shot.
Yeah,
but the little snub noses. But that scene where he's bidding her goodbye, and that's it, but he's still pretending. I mean, I know he wants to believe like she's gonna run away with him, but like it's ridiculous. And he's like, "You'll meet me," like and they keep saying like 2 days, 10 a.m. Miami. You'll drive through the night.
And I like that the scene you don't see is her clearly telling the parents, them being like, "You have to tell the cops."
Sure, right.
And then them setting them up at the airport, whatever. Yeah. We just jump.
We just get it.
Yeah.
Because he's like leaving this trail of destruction in his wake. The movie is not about those people, even if he's ruining lives.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of the crimes he commits are victimless crimes. Like, a lot of the crimes he's literally just defrauding banks and airplane companies. Like, okay, whatever. Like, I mean, no one's really going to root against this guy.
Yeah, but that fucking haunts him because he actually was in love with this woman. Like,
but
that
this
wasn't a con.
This one is brutal.
He actually wanted to settle down with that
the only
woman.
reason he should have just kept moving on, right? Like, papering money all over the place.
Yeah. I just think,
because as he says, I have millions of dollars. Like, we can just go away and live forever. Like, on this money.
Right. And it elevates this movie to have a performance that strong in that character and to have her be such a sad, nuanced character.
She's so sad.
I mean, she doesn't play it. This is a performance I feel like a lot of actors would play condescendingly because she's kind of simple and a babe in the woods and childlike,
Yep.
But that's what draws them closer together. I love the implication that she's older than him. We don't get a specific age, but
she's
she
had
has
an
to be.
abortion. She's like...
Right. That backstory, that scene is so fucking well done.
Yeah.
Where he's just like...
Why don't we just get married?
Right. And it's not like him trying to like placate her. He's like, we all do things we're not proud of. Like, he's just like, I'm a liar. Like, why would I ever hold anything against you?
Yeah. I mean, it's good,
I love that he's no judgment
for why she would be immediately drawn to him as well. Like, as someone who's like totally forgiving and non-judgmental.
And he's like the one person who like kind of respects her. Like, you can tell she's been, and like her parents fucking disown her. Right. He's so respectable in his bullshit that they believe in her again.
Right.
And it's like, yeah, I just think it's a heartbreaking character, an amazing performance. So now we've forgotten to acknowledge 2 recurring threads that have been set up. One is that this movie is taking place over years, with Christmas Day always as this kind of landing point.
And the idea is that every Christmas, Frank gets lonely and calls Carl Hanratty.
Right.
And then Carl calls him on it, says, like, you don't have anyone to talk to.
Right.
I'm the only one you can talk to.
Is the most scared he ever is in the entire
film. Right. But also...
He hangs up the phone immediately in a cold sweat.
As the movie is going on, we're figuring out, like, also Carl Hanratty has no one to talk to on Christmas.
Yeah, what's he fucking doing?
Like, this daughter who he lives with the mother and, like, obviously he works too much.
He's
and
got
like,
a
never
wedding
sees
ring,
the kid.
and Leo asks about it, but he's like, I don't have a family, And he goes, well, I have a family, my daughter's 4. But he keeps on kind of brushing it off. And then the other thing is, Leo keeps on going back intermittently to see his father. And all he wants is his father to be impressed.
Well, to be impressed, and he wants to, like, rebuild the broken family.
He thinks that if he can make his father great again, then the mother will come back.
He keeps coming back and acting like it's been a week since they broke up.
Right.
And he's like, well, have you seen her? And the dad's like, she
can't let her go. You got to win her back. Remember
she,
that
like,
girl
moved
at the
in
bar?
with this other guy. Right.
Right.
And I mean, and then in that second scene, which is the last time he sees him, when he's now a mailman.
Yeah.
Right. And he says, like, tell me to stop. Like,
yeah.
I don't want to do this. Like, tell me to stop doing this.
Yeah.
And instead, Walken's just like, having a great time, huh? Like, where are you going?
And just changes the subject, talks about fucking whatever.
He's so good in those scenes.
Leo keeps on presenting it to him as he's actually doing these jobs. And, like, you can't bullshit a bullshitter. Walken knows exactly what's going on. And so he's never impressed in the way that Leo wants him to be. The moment that he's proudest of his son is when he sees that everyone at the fancy restaurant is looking at him. You know?
Yes, absolutely.
Because that's all he's ever wanted is the confidence and the respect of others. but he doesn't respect him as if he is a doctor or a lawyer or an airline pilot because he knows that's fucking bullshit, even though Leo never lets it on until the very end.
Right.
The scene where he makes him recount the story of meeting the mom at the bar and Walken gets choked up is like an uncharacteristically vulnerable moment in a Walken performance, which I really think is like what made him such a firebrand Oscar player this year, because that's like a side we'd never really seen before of just him being just like broken.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like Deer Hunter's like crazy broken.
Yeah.
And this is just like he's just a sad broken man.
He's, a fucked up guy.
And that scene where he's like, Dad, what are you wearing? You can't let Mom see you in this. And he's just like, it's over. Like, I'm a fucking old guy. What am I going to do?
But he doesn't say it like that exactly. He just kind of like gently, and then he'll, like you say, he'll sort of switch the subject to being like, so, what are you doing?
Well, he's the kind of bullshitter who's like, you look at how resigned he is when he goes to the bank and they're like, IRS is investigating you. We can't do this.
Well, no, but also how resigned he is when Tom Hanks shows up and he's like, yeah, if you're going to arrest me, can I change my suit at least? Like, please. Like,
He's a guy who always knew that it was going to catch up with him someday. And when he goes like, yeah, I had to close the store for a little bit. It was getting hot. Whatever. DiCaprio thinks he's never going to get caught.
True.
He wants to be a greater man than his father. He wants to believe that there's no way he will ever be in a position that he can't talk his way out.
What can I tell you?
So now he's on the run. There's the great sequence where, when he goes to the airport to try to pick up Amy Adams so they can run away together, he sees the Fed whispering in her ear and then comes up with this amazing short-term con where he goes to the college, pretends it's a stewardess recruitment program, and essentially camouflages himself.
That's a cool scene.
In the middle of, like, 12 beautiful women who will flock around him and distract.
Yep. It's a good scene.
Then
you cut ahead to he's in France.
And the Hanratty sign. It's a good fucking punk. He punks Hanratty.
He punks him good.
This movie is kind of, he was the original punker.
Hey, was the song Come Fly Away With Me originally just written for montages in airports?
Correct.
Okay, great.
And also Delta commercials.
Yeah, it's a little ballsy to break out the Sinatra for that scene, but it's a good scene.
Yeah. There's also, it's ballsy of him to, during the whole doctor sequence, play that song that's like, I'm a doctor now. You know that I'm a doctor now.
I'm not endorsing that.
Lawyer man. I'm
endorsing that.
Yeah.
That's good.
Fake chauffeur. Fake chauffeur from my dad.
We got to wrap this up. Jesus.
Well, now this last chunk of the movie is just like, it's clear that his luck's going to run out.
Well, yeah, because now he's in France. He's better.
Yeah.
Like, he's amazing now. He bought, like, a check machine. I don't know what the fuck it is, but he's, like, become, like, the most master, like, international check thief.
And like, they're not even fakes anymore.
The weird thing
they're
is,
like, that's why he's floating. They're not even fakes. He's making real checks. Like, everything about this is top quality. And Tom Hanks goes to his supervisors, and they're like, "You got to drop this."
Well, that's the thing. The Treasury, they've given up on him. They're like, "Yeah, whatever. Like, we're not sending you to fucking France or Spain or whatever."
There's that early scene where he's going to his boss, and he was like, "I was in the room with this kid. I can catch him."
Right, and the boss is like, "Go get him." Yeah.
Well, no, but he's like, "Look, corner office. You're in line for that position. This and that. Don't make a mistake." And he's like, "What's a mistake?" And goes like, "Embarrass yourself.
Right.
Do anything they can hold
so
against
now
you."
it's he's embarrassed.
Years have passed.
Right. Yeah.
And he goes to the boss. He's like, "I'm close to this kid. I'm getting closer." And it's like 3 years have passed.
Yeah, enough.
Right. And he's like, "We can't let him get away." And he goes like, "You already did.
Yeah, basta.
We don't care anymore. Who fucking gives a shit? Whatever."
But anyway, it doesn't matter. I want you to get to your big hot take.
Hanks has the breakthrough. Oh, France. He must be in the town where his mother lives.
Richard,
they go there.
The agent is finally useful. His partner is finally like, "Oh, I have it in my notes, Mon Richard," which is good. I like that he has a little moment.
And it's like there's a year later flash, so we don't know what he's been doing for the last year. And when they get to the factory, it's like, this is now manic.
He's just
crazy.
melted down,
yeah.
And he's printing checks.
He's in a white theater, and he's like, "Hanratty, nice to see you. Hey."
And it's like, this scene is fine. I like the scene. This is the part of the movie where I'm like, okay, let's wrap it up, because he escapes like 8 more times. Like he escapes from the plane. He jumps through the toilet, and then he like goes to his family's house, and it finally dawns on him like, my parents have divorced and my father is dead. Like, I am actually not going to fix anything here.
This movie can fall into the common Spielberg complaint of like
Too many endings.
Which used to be my complaint about this movie.
It does have a lot of endings. It doesn't bother me because I love the final ending. I like where everything ends up.
I do too.
I just love that.
But I just love this. DiCaprio's now like he's like a shell of a man. Like he's not even having fun doing this anymore.
No,
like he's just doing it to do. He doesn't. Right. It's like he'd go through withdrawal if he couldn't con people. Sure. That's the only thing he knows how to do. And yeah, Hank's like in the moment where you expect that he's gonna have his like, you know, Tommy Lee Jones fugitive. Like I got you. This is all I cared about. He's like, please don't fuck this up. Like they can kill you. I'm trying to treat you civilly. Handcuff yourself. Walk out with me. There's no point in running. And DiCaprio's like, you trying to con me? What are you lying? What about the thing you said about your kids? This and that. You said you didn't have a family. I have a family. I have a daughter. It's 4. I don't anymore. I used to.
All right.
And he like goes out and the cops aren't there and he freaks out and then the cops come.
Yeah.
He runs away. He tries to go see his mom. He sees his mom's remarried with the kid. Freaks out. They arrest him. The French extradited prison. All that. Right. Whatever.
The prison scene. They extradited. Yeah, that's all already happened. But yeah,
the
all
plane,
that
there was the flash in the middle, and he keeps on asking the like, how do you pass the bar? The one thing I
can't figure out.
Won't say. Trying to con him.
He goes to prison. He's sentenced for many years in solitary confinement.
They don't try him as a minor. They give him like 20 years.
They start
12 years. 16,
I think. They start chatting to him. Then he starts visiting him and chatting to him.
Yeah.
And Abigail's like, let me see those checks. Got some checks. Checks. And so like they realize like, oh, this guy's I mean, he's the best in the biz. Right.
He knows, right.
And so they hire him, and then what does he do once he shows up at the FBI, like, after one day?
Yeah.
Runs away again.
This is the exact thing he's been trying to avoid his entire life, which is just a normal life. You know? Like, The Office, I love The Office is so drab, all pop is drained out of it, you know? Like, they make it such an unengaging environment without any, like, verve or pizzazz. And it's just like, wait, so what's my life now? And it's like supervised custody. This guy, Hanratty, is now in charge of you. You have to work here every day for the indefinite future. And he's like, oh, fuck. And so he's like already trying to like, okay, let me go to my file, cut the thing out, make a new passport. And he's like, what are you doing this weekend? Oh, go visit my daughter. Oh, great. Cool. Okay. Tries to get away.
Tries to get away at the TWA.
Great
terminal.
Spielberg wonder where he's walking down and Hanks is just in the background. He's got the old pilot's outfit on, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Hanks is just out of focus, slowly getting closer and closer, and is just like, I knew you were going to come here. And he was like, weren't you supposed to be on a plane to see your daughter? And he's like, she's skiing this weekend. Because I thought you said she was 4. And she's like, she's 16. I haven't seen her yet.
Right. It's the same basic thing, which is like,
why do you lie to me? It's like, I want to live in the world I want to live.
Well, it's the same thing as Abigail's been doing to himself.
Yeah.
It's like, time has passed.
Right.
Like, time has passed.
They've both been denying and thinking they can fix
years
the
have passed.
Right.
So, and then, I mean, it's basically just one more scene, right? Because the last scene is Hanks waiting for him to arrive.
Because Hanks says, I'm not going to chase you. No one's chasing you anymore. He knows that part of it was the thrill of the chase, right? And he goes like, I'm not going to chase you because I know you're going to come back. What are you going to do if you leave?
Right.
Do you know how hard I had to go? I had to go like fucking all the way up the train to get you out of jail. What are you going to do? And they do a good fake out where you see the footsteps.
Oh, he's late. You know, it's not, there. But then he shows up. They look at the checks together.
Yeah.
I love how when they start looking at the checks together, everyone else leaves because they're like, these check nerds over here.
And he says, you got to tell me, how do you pass the bar?
Studied.
Yeah.
Studied hard. 2 weeks. Passed it himself.
Right.
But then I like that Tom Hanks is like, is that the truth? Is that the truth? And he's like, it's a good check. He doesn't totally confirm it.
Okay.
All right, what's your hot take?
So here are my reads on the movie. I think this is the most autobiographical film that Spielberg has ever made.
So, which is essentially like, you think Spielberg was like, I was a fucked up kid at divorce who just had confidence. Or what do you mean?
Well, yeah, in a lot of ways. I mean, I think it's a movie about escapism, right? I think the cons
good call.
That DiCaprio is running, his cons that he is running are analogs for Spielberg's films.
Mm-hmm.
Not like, oh, the airline is Raiders, but just like,
no, I get you.
Those are the projects of like, he wants to create a world.
Sure, and he's chasing the next thing,
and it's the things that he sees that he aspires to. Here are the figures of stature who get respect. I want to make the kind of movies I grew up loving. This is what spoke to me. Confidence is the currency, right? For him, it's like cinema is the currency. Do you know that the beginning of Spielberg's career, how he got started, was
he just like went into a lot and like sat in an office
lot and was like, hey, I have a development deal here.
Right,
and they were like, okay. Yeah. And he found an office that was vacated. And every day he went in at the Universal office that no one was using for like weeks to months and just like hung around and watched other people doing shit.
Right. And then finally someone was like, who the fuck are you? And he was like, oh, no, bye.
Right.
Yeah.
And then he got like a TV directing job, and like he was off, right?
Yeah, I do know that, yes.
So that's a real Frank Abagnale move.
It is.
Like
Good for you, Stevie.
Right?
And he had like, he talks about it. He had like a fucked up family that got divorced, and it was like totally traumatic for him.
Right. And you figure that, as a very vulnerable kid, right, who probably had a hard time dealing with the realities of what was going on in his home life, movies were the escape, right? They were the thing that made him feel comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
What did he want to do? He wanted to make the thing that made him feel comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
In the same way that, like, DiCaprio wants to be the kind of man that his father was trying to be, but even more successfully, without the failures, without the chinks in the armor.
Another thing that's interesting about Steven Spielberg.
Mm-hmm.
He applied to USC, didn't get in because he had like a C average. He wasn't like a good student. So he didn't get into the USC Film School, which is what George Lucas got into.
Right,
and,
all the big guys.
So instead he went to like a UC State school. I can't remember which one. And then I think he might have he dropped out. He didn't, and he does all the shit we're talking, he starts working in the industry. Years later, like near to, like in like 2000 or something, he gets his BA. He like went back to school to get his BA.
Yeah.
Like, so, like much like Abagnale, he finally like put his pen to paper again, and he was like, legit this time. Imagine Steven Spielberg getting a BA.
I just think about that thing that you hear like filmmakers and actors say all the time, where they're just like, I really want to, what drew you to this project? And you're like, this is the kind of movie my dad loved.
Sure.
Sure. And it feels like he, I don't know what his father's relationship was to movies. I only know what we basically know about his relationship to movies, which is just like they were everything to him. Like from the moment he discovered cinema, that was his entire worldview. That was all he understood, and he had to create that, right? These confidence games of creating a world and knowing what you're doing, improvising on the fly. That's what all filmmaking is. And Spielberg was known very well for, the shark doesn't work. Use that. Make that part of the language.
Okay.
I have pneumonia this day. Cairo Swordsman scene is one shot.
Okay. We've run long.
So what happens? He's fucking chasing escapism, high fantasy, right? Making these populist blockbusters.
Okay.
And what's chasing him the entire time? Adulthood, maturity,
right.
Psychological realism. Like he's been dealing in very binary color palettes, good and bad, sad and happy,
Okay.
Movies are like a fucking comfort food for us. And Spielberg has become this guy who is synonymous with like escapism to the point that everyone else says they're trying to make their Spielberg-type movie, their Amblin-type movie. Stranger Things is trying to get back to how things felt when
Stranger
you were
Things.
a kid.
Leave that out of it.
Right?
Come on. Keep going.
Fucking pop culture is today preeminently defined by the things that Steven Spielberg did for 20 years, making movies that made us feel like children again.
Yeah.
Right? And now everyone's just trying to make that thing. And Spielberg is this guy who's like fighting for adult dramas. And this is kind of like in the
now
transitional
he's become a
period.
Yeah.
Where like that's what was chasing him this whole time. Is like, you're the most successful movie filmmaker of all time. But where's this actually going? You're just going to keep on making movies for kids forever?
Okay.
And every time he goes back to like one of his old cons, it doesn't work. It's fucking Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Or it's
you're
BFG.
talking about later, yeah.
Right, but even Lost World, like from the point where he wins the Oscar.
Okay, look, you're doing your thing where
and
now
everybody catches him.
No, everything can't fit into your dumb grand unified theory.
Does.
He made Empire of the Sun. Like, I mean, his whole problem was that he would make these serious movies, and people would be like, "No, you're good at the kiddie shit," yeah.
Right, but
and then eventually,
Empire of the
he
Sun
grows up.
Empire of the Sun was him trying to marry Amy Adams.
Sure, great, good job, squeezing it all in there.
Thank you.
What's always?
Always is just like a shitty con. That's maybe the lawyer thing.
What's Hook?
Yeah, I mean, they didn't cover all the cons in this movie. No, but like, this is the better Peter Pan movie.
That I agree with. Exactly. I mean, Hook is him making a Peter Pan movie, obviously, which is like obviously just like a completely elemental story for him, right?
Yes.
Like that weird dichotomy of like, I know I have to grow up, but like I'm happiest here, and like this is where I have my magical powers, right? Like,
and this fantasy that people have always been obsessed with, right? Especially like escapist directors have always been like, I got to make my Peter Pan movie, right?
Boy, oh boy,
and
do they need to stop thinking that?
Peter Pan just like doesn't fucking work as a movie. Like we've told
Peter Pan is creepy.
Yeah.
It's about wanting to be a little boy.
Yeah, and guess what? People should fucking grow up. And I say this
as
someone who's like
by a creep.
I say this as someone
who's real Peter Pan syndrome over here.
Yeah, but you know what? Like here I am, right? All I fucking care about is like fucking cartoons and superheroes.
Sure.
And yet I'm now the guy standing around.
20 minutes he talked to me about Transformers before we went on my.
But my point is, like, all of fucking high school, I used to get made fun of all the time because all I cared about was superheroes and cartoons.
I get it.
Right?
And now, we live
it's
in
all
a world.
popular cinema, and I'm like, give me adult drama.
It's true. We live in a world where it's like. Mark Ruffalo is the Hulk.
Right.
You know?
And I'm not pretending that I don't go see all of those movies and they aren't comfort
No,
food to
but
me,
it's- I
and that
mean,
I don't watch them.
Just think about that. Mark
Right.
Ruffalo is the Hulk.
I know. And look, these are the movies I watch when I can't fall asleep at night because, like, I have anxiety and I need something to placate
Yeah,
me,
of
right?
course. It's
but like,
a cookie.
I want like fucking adult
All right, Griffin.
cinema.
Stop yelling. Stop yelling.
Hold on, I'm tying it all together, okay? But this movie is about how you can't fucking go home again. How Peter Pan is like a goddamn
He goes
myth.
home again.
Yeah, what
There's
is
a
it?
little kid there.
Yeah, it's not his home anymore.
Not his home.
Right. And
Seems like a nice home.
His dad's dead.
He fell down the stairs
Right.
at Grand Central.
Right. Nothing he can do can retroactively fix his childhood.
He can't produce a necklace and say, must have slipped off your neck.
Making the thing that made him feel good, trying to be the man his father wanted to be, doesn't fix things retroactively.
Yes. Okay. Your point is understood. For sure.
Hanratty is adulthood. He's maturity. And what's the end of the movie? The end of the movie is he finally accepts it.
Right. But it is interesting that since then, he has tried to make, a couple of more old school Spielberg movies, like you say.
His failures.
Well, but then you could put Tintin in there as well. Tintin's an odd one, but Tintin is also kind of old school Spielberg.
When we get to Tintin, I'll explain why I think Tintin's an outlier.
Well, I mean, we can talk about Tintin when we get to Tintin. The advantage
We'll
Tintin
get to
has
Tintin.
is it's Tintin, which is the best.
Right. We'll get to Tintin.
But so I know what you mean. Like he tries to make Crystal Skull and BFG, and both times,
and those are like the later escapes. That's like him trying to escape and go to the airport when Hanratty's already like, "You work for me. You're a grown up. Own it. You have to stop running away from this thing."
And then he's like, "Okay, I'll make a sci-fi movie. It's about a divorced dad." Who witnesses 9/11.
Yeah.
And then hides in a basement.
Yeah.
And Tim Robbins is there.
Yeah, and also the movie is like he's trying to win over a dad who he could never win over, right?
It's a good call.
And Hanratty's this fucking father figure for him.
Can we...
And DiCaprio's the
Look,
son.
we're almost at 2 hours here, so can we wrap it up?
This is my wrap-up.
Yeah, no, it's good.
Right?
It's a good call.
Hanratty's a father who doesn't have a child. DiCaprio's a child who doesn't have a father.
Right, and then
they're both trying to live in their alternate realities, where his daughter's still young and DiCaprio's dad's still great.
We get it. My God.
The movie's about Steven Spielberg realizing that he has to fucking, like, put
call.
away childish things.
But, okay, the only problem I have with that is he kind of had done that, right? Like,
yeah, that's why it's the movie about him realizing what he did.
Now because it's like...
This isn't the movie that represents the shift.
In between Schindler's List and this, the only, like, vaguely childish movie he's made is Lost World, which is not even really a childish movie.
I'm saying I think this is the movie about
that's fair.
those 7 years of him making that transition.
About the DreamWorks years?
Yes. About the DreamWorks years. And I think, it's that escapism is a distraction.
Wait. Or is it about the sky?
Hey.
It's about the sky.
Hey, Ben, what was Dan Lewis up to right now?
I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, he was a cobbler?
Yeah, correct.
Great.
Next week, of course, we're talking...
Not to be confused with the Adam Sandler movie.
No.
Different.
And next week's episode, of course, is Cobbling the Cobbler.
One day.
You should do that.
Yeah.
I like that a lot.
Escapism is distraction and a lie, and confidence is a currency. Catch Me If You Can.
Sure.
In my opinion, after this rewatch, one of Spielberg's masterpieces.
You think it's one of his best?
I think it's one of his best films.
I could be argued into that. I don't know.
I love this movie.
It's a great movie.
Yeah.
You liked it, Ben.
This was a movie I had very few films on DVD.
It was a Fletch for you.
I mostly had TV, but this is one I also, would rewatch. And I was like super into the scam and the fraud part of this movie.
Well, because you're a little Dennis the Menace.
Yeah.
He's just like a big Dennis the Menace.
I was into all kinds of stuff, so this movie was influential
Wait a second,
to me.
Ben. What were you into?
Ben's lived a varied life also. Like, we are always getting new periods of Ben's life with weird jobs that we never heard of before.
Like, the thing me and my friends would do, just a good example, is we'd steal books from Borders and then return them for money.
Oh, yeah, that's a good scam.
That's a real scam.
Yeah. Or like, and I did some mail fraud. Like, I was into some shit.
Catch Me If You Ben. Am I right?
Oh, baby.
Good.
I love it.
Can we please?
But no, all right. So, David, just quick.
Jesus.
This is my
What?
takeaway.
Okay.
Hey, man, nothing matters, right?
Okay.
Period.
Wait, he's starting with nothing matters.
I agree.
Here's my take. Nothing matters.
That's my read on this movie. My read on this movie is you have to accept that nothing matters.
Okay, go ahead.
No,
What's
the
your
system has always been rigged.
Yep.
So why work hard when you can equally take advantage of the system?
Well, right.
In America,
and
where we
again,
don't have royalties and we don't have
that's
lineage,
I also just like the idea. It's like
that's the currency. That's the legacy.
But it's also like halfway through the movie, he says to Tom Hanks, like, I don't want to do it anymore. Just give me a break. Can we just give it a break? I'll just turn myself in, and then you won't. Right. And Tom Hanks is like, no, you broke the law. You have to go to jail. But what happens is they give him a break because he's good at his thing. It's his fucking check frauds, and he totally gets off.
And Hanks loves him.
And Hanks loves
the son
him.
He wants.
He's lovable.
Oh, I just also forgot quickly. The key thing to the Christmas thing is that that's like the day where the fact that they can't go home strikes them.
Sure.
That the
course.
family,
everyone else goes home,
is lost.
Yes.
That they have nowhere to go,
right.
and that's the happy, safe place they wish they could return to. But it's time to put away such childish
Spielberg
things.
is such a Christmas obsessed Jew, like so many of them. You know, speaking as a not Christmas obsessed Jew, but you're pointing at yourself. Yes,
I'm
you know
a
where
Christmas obsessed Jew.
exactly. The Jews who just are tapping on the other end of the window, being like, "It looks warm in there."
Merry Christmas, motherfucker.
The weekend. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just want to say one last thing.
I'm on the other side too. I'm like that with Hanukkah.
Yeah, Ben loves Hanukkah.
I love Hanukkah.
He does 16 candles. Just one sentence. This is my favorite DiCaprio performance because it's the one where he's playing all of his cards. He's not holding anything back in terms of I want to be positioned as this or that. And I also think it's a movie about kind of like movie star. It's a movie where it needs a movie star to be showing how powerful someone can be in getting you to buy into a fake reality. So it's a movie about acting. He gets to play a lot of different shades. And I think it's his most vulnerable, relatable, charismatic performance.
Okay, fine. I'm so weary now that I can't even argue with you.
Done.
I mean, he's good in the
Hot
movie.
take, masterpiece, go on.
Yeah, but you just yelled for a long time. A lot of yelling.
I'm an impassioned young boy.
It's Christmas 2002.
Okay.
Come on.
Movie opens big, but number 2 at the box
Number
office.
2, 48 million for the weekend.
Big number.
Yeah, I mean it's
For
like
drama,
a
2002?
It's like a 6-day weekend though, because like Christmas Day is like Wednesday or something, so it's like a very long week.
It ends up making like 170, 160 something.
Its final total was 164 domestic, 352 worldwide on a $52 million budget.
Big.
A lot of money.
Okay, number 1 film has to be Two Towers, right?
Lord of the Rings: The Two Towers, which has made $200 million
a lot of money.
in 2 weeks.
People like that franchise. Popular.
Helm's Deep.
Hell's yeah. Treebeard, though?
Gollum.
Oh, God. You have no idea how much I loved Gollum.
My precious! Ah! I just rewatched that and I forgot that he just yells after yelling my precious.
Gollum was my boy.
It's fucking great.
I looked so much like Gollum in high school that I was just happy that, like, I was like, I'm being represented on screen. Like, here's a character that looks like me.
Whereas I looked like Samwise Gamgee.
Okay.
No, I didn't look like
You weren't that short.
No, I wasn't that short. Number 2, Catch Me If You Can. 48 mil.
Okay.
Opening Christmas weekend.
Uh-huh.
Number 3 is a rom-com. In its second week, it's made $43 million.
2 weeks' notice?
Yes. Like, Jesus, that's all you needed?
Yeah, I'm remembering 2002 pretty vividly.
Now,
and I remember that was a Christmas era release.
Now, the premise of 2 weeks' notice is she's given her 2 weeks' notice.
Yep.
I did the premise.
I made $90 million domestic. That's all you needed back then.
You named 93. Yeah, Jesus. Sandra Bullock, Hugh Grant. Right?
Yeah.
Number 4 is a rom-com.
Oh, another one.
That has made $56 million in 3 weeks.
Okay.
And it total makes $94 million. This is a rom-com starring a relatively big female actress at the time.
Relatively big. Okay.
She was big. She was pretty
Okay.
big. But starring, and the love interest in this movie, in retrospect, is fucking unbelievable.
Wow.
Is like one of those things where you're like, huh?
Okay. Relatively big actress. It's
Yeah, big
2002.
actress.
It's been out for 3 weeks. What number does it end up at? Final gross?
94, I told you. Almost exactly the same as 2 weeks' notice.
Yeah.
They opened concurrently, played concurrently, and did the same amount of money.
Was this actress mostly known for rom-coms?
She's in a couple more. She was kind of an action star too. Not even action, but like she made some sort of thriller / dramas.
I mean, it's not Diaz, right?
No.
She's
sort of hard to categorize because the big clue about her is kind of obvious.
Interesting.
Like if I gave you the big clue about her, you'd be like, "Oh, I know who this is."
It's not Kate Hudson.
No.
It's Hilary Swank?
No, she's like, put it this way, she's a really famous person.
Yeah.
But she's not just famous for being an actress.
Oh, is it J-Lo?
Yes.
Okay.
Jennifer Lopez.
And so it's that
2002,
Maid
it's Made in Manhattan.
Made in Manhattan.
Yeah.
And who is her romantic lead in that movie?
Ray Fiennes?
Rafe Fiennes.
Yeah.
As a like slightly creepy like billionaire or something.
Hey, quick cue.
Good one, Ben. Good one.
Oh, thanks.
Nice alley-oop there.
Dude, how come they don't call them com-roms and rom-coms to let you know how much is a comedy and how much more is a
Ben, we're
romance.
short on time.
Our finest film critic.
Number 5, in 2 weeks, has made $29 million. We already discussed it extensively on this episode.
On this episode, Gangs of New York.
Gangs of New York.
Gangs of
$10
New
million.
York.
Fun fact about Dan Lewis.
Yeah.
He was a shoemaker in Italy before he was in that movie.
Yeah.
Some other
I had
movies.
heard that. That's
Some other
crazy.
movies.
Yeah.
Drumline.
Oh,
Nick
yeah.
Cannon's big
Yeah.
breakout role
Zoe
there.
Saldana's big breakout.
Sure. Zoe Saldana's in the next movie we're going to talk about.
Oh, yeah.
Younger Zoe Saldana.
The Terminal.
Right? The Terminal. Wild Thornberry's movies in there.
Yeah. Not a big grosser, that one. It opened at number 8,
It
right?
made $40 million. Beat its budget.
Yeah. Opening weekend was dire on that movie, though. Is this week 1 for it?
This is week 2.
It held a little
Harry
bit.
Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. Fun fact about Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets.
Yeah.
The longest of the Harry Potter films.
Really?
Isn't that crazy?
That's crazy.
Like Goblet of Fire, which is based on a book that's like 3 times longer,
Right.
is shorter.
Because Chamber of Secrets might be the shortest of the books, right?
I
That and the
think
first
it is.
one.
I mean, 1 or 2 is the shortest.
They all get exponentially
that
longer.
movie is 2 hours and 40 minutes long.
That's insane.
I mean, just like pause and think about that.
That
for a
spider.
second.
That's Spider, though.
I think it's also the only Harry Potter movie I'd never have seen again. I think I only saw that in theaters. It's fine.
Yeah.
It's like arguably a lot better than the first one.
I'll say I think Azkaban's the only Harry Potter movie I've seen more than once.
I did a rewatch of like most of them, but I think
Yeah.
I started with Azkaban.
Yeah, Azkaban rules.
Yeah, Azkaban's pretty good.
Fucking
It got
rules.
Hot Chick.
Oh.
Hot Chick with Robbie Schneider and an unfamous Rachel McAdams.
And Anna Faris. 2 big breakouts in that movie.
Die Another Day, the apex of
Yeah, that's
Pierce
a
Brosnan.
great one. Yeah.
Star Trek Nemesis, the sort of wet fart that ends the Patrick Stewart Star Trek movies.
And people thought Tom Hardy wasn't going to happen. That was his shot.
It took him years to happen
Years.
after that.
Careers are
Jeez.
really long, dude.
Yeah, they are. My Big Fat Greek Wedding still lingering.
That's insane. What is Big Fat Greek Wedding up to at this point?
$222 million.
So it has 20 million more to make before it finishes its run.
Correct.
And it's already been out for 9 months at that
It
point?
came out in like April.
Never again
It's
will that
number
happen.
12 at the box office in December.
And it came out in April.
It's in 951 theaters.
That will literally never happen again.
Amazingly, even though it lost 22 theaters this week, it gained 90% at the box office.
It's a good Christmas movie.
I guess so. Everyone was like, back for My Big
Yeah.
Fat Greek Wedding. Another movie that opened this week, Chicago, number 13,
Oh.
77 theaters. Another movie, The Hours, number 31 in
Miramax
11
is going
theaters.
hard this weekend.
Another one, The Pianist, number 44 in 6 theaters.
That was Focus. That wasn't Miramax, right?
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like,
yes.
all the
All
big
the Oscar
Oscar
movies come out
players
this weekend, yeah.
are released in limited on Christmas Day.
Yeah.
Which is now, you can't do that.
Can I throw out a funny stat?
Yeah.
I forget who tweeted this, and I am sorry if you're listening, credit, because it's probably someone we know in film Twitter. Someone did the math on, like, My Big Fat Greek Wedding, which opened in 5 theaters and ended up doing $240 million.
Mhm.
And then Big Fat Greek Wedding 2 opened to, like, $15 million.
Yeah.
And they were like, if Big Fat Greek Wedding 2 has the same opening weekend multiple as Big Fat Greek Wedding 1, it will make $5.6 billion. Like, they did the actual
Yeah,
math,
no, that's
and
good.
it was an insane number. Well, that has been Catch Me If You Can.
Catch If Can.
Pod Me If You Cast.
Pot If Cats.
And as I tweeted out last night, rewatch if you can, because this movie's a winner.
It is.
One of my top Spielbergs. I love it. I was really blown away by how much it grew for me this time. And I'll say, I got even a little teary-eyed by the ending. The final
Sure.
shot of the two of them just accepting this is their world. This is their relationship.
This
now.
this is not a movie that makes me choke up, but it is a very nice movie that makes me think.
I was surprised it made me choke up because it doesn't feel emotionally sort of aggressive in the way Spielberg can be when he wants to be.
No, I agree. Yeah.
I was choked up by the understated sadness.
Do you get
of the
choked
ending.
up at the terminal?
No, I don't.
We'll find out on next week's Blank Check
Yeah.
with Griffin and David.
Buy your ticket to Krakosia now because we're...
Get ready for the most people of color in a Spielberg movie that isn't about slavery ever.
Yeah, and guess what? They mostly play sanitation workers.
They mostly play working class airport employees.
Yeah.
Oh,
But yeah, bring your
boy.
cell phone charger because we're going to be stuck at the airport for a while.
He built an airport.
What if we decided that our
For that
terminal
movie.
episode had to be as long as the time he was stuck in the terminal?
How long is that?
It's like a couple months. I
Yeah,
think.
probably not.
Should
right?
we record at JFK?
Yes, 100%.
That's an airport.
Yeah,
noise.
we'll do it. We'll do it on location. Thank you all for listening. Please remember to rate, review, subscribe.
Check us out on Reddit.
Yeah.
/r/blankies.
Yeah.
True.
Do it.
/Reddit. And as always, I don't know if you guys know this, but Dan Lewis went to Ireland to become a cobbler.
Italy. Italy.
Oh, really? I heard it was Ireland.
This has been a UCB comedy production. Check out our other shows on the UCB Comedy Podcast Network.